Last segment, Paul, you did announce the news that Kendall Briles, the Arkansas offensive coordinator, is off to TCU to take the same job, which is kind of interesting because Sam Pittman now losing both his coordinators, and we've talked about in the past how a lot of his success was revolving around those two coordinators.
Yeah, and those were both critically important coordinators. I mean, sometimes you have coordinators and you go, okay, those guys were the brains behind the operation.
Yeah, they really were. Arkansas was 15th in the nation in offense last year. They bring in Travis Williams as the new defensive coordinator. It'll be interesting to see who they hire to replace Briles. KJ Jefferson comes back, so it'll be an interesting offseason.
Yeah, and the Mitchell announcement was interesting, too. I don't know what's behind that, but we'll delve into it here in a moment. Thank you, Sam.
It's very interesting.
Hey, Pete Golding, you want to come back? Meanwhile, Arkansas as bringing back Dan Enos. He's made the rounds. He's been at Alabama. He's been at Arkansas. He went to Miami. Where was he last? Maryland? He's now in Arkansas.
It's interesting the way these things are starting to play out now. KJ Jefferson decides to return to school, and Arkansas loses its offensive coordinator. Kendall Briles did a great job with KJ Jefferson the last 2 years. Now you got Dan Enos working with KJ Jefferson. So at every little stop, you can find something where you're like, all right, that's going to be a little intriguing. Spencer Rattler is a perfect example, Paul. If you up until the Tennessee and Clemson games, he had 8 touchdowns and 9 interceptions, and he was considered a bust. And then look what he did the final 3 games of the season. Can he be that guy that returns to that 2020 form? When Oklahoma went to the Big 12 title, he becomes that guy. Then it's a different team there.
Since we talked, we've added 3 guys on offense and 3 guys on defense since our December signing. Tyrone Broden from Bowling Green, Isaac Teslaw from Hillsdale College, Trajan Jeffcoat from Missouri, Al Walcott from Baylor, Lorando Snacks Johnson from Baylor, and obviously we just talked about Shamar. So we went 3 offense, 3 defense in those additions. We signed 20 high school players. I believe that should be our minimum. Times change. I think the portal window and the signing date and all that stuff, I think we still have to look at that. But we need to recruit high school players. And so we were fortunate enough to sign 20 there. We've signed 10 transfers so far, and we have 9 scholarships still remaining. Of that group, we signed a total of 4 wideouts, 2 tight ends, 2 quarterbacks, a running back, and 4 O-linemen. And that makes it 13 on offense, 17 on defense with 5 D linemen, 4 linebackers, and 8 DBs. 12 high school kids are here. 8 of them are going to graduate in May and be here in June of those 20. 10 transfers, and they're all here. Portal-wise, to this point, we've gone 3 wide receivers, a running back, a linebacker, 2 DBs, and 2 D linemen. So I'm really excited about where we are. Change certainly can be looked at however you'd like, but I like to look at it as we try to change to get better. And I believe that's what we've done.
How big was it to keep everybody in the state that you offered a scholarship to?
Well, our number one goal each year is to keep everyone that we've offered in the state, and we've done that pretty well. I think we lost one maybe a year ago or 2 years ago, but we want to. Our high school coaches in the state are tremendous to us. We want to be good to them as well. But guys, I just feel like the fourth quarter comes, and I think it means a lot to everybody. Maybe a little bit more to a guy that's been born and raised as a Hog fan. And we certainly have a lot in next year's class that we're looking at. It seems to be a pretty good class in the state, but. It means everything to us, and there's a lot of people that help us. That's parents, that's public, that's coaches.
Show me the money? How about that? SEC never lacking when it comes to big payoffs, and that is the case again today. The league showed a slight and very likely, how about almost automatically, temporary revenue decline in 22, according to new tax records. The school, the conference has also released that every school in the SEC, all 14, will receive close to $50 million in payoff. Chris, I know for even predating your arrival from TCU, there's always been that conversation about A&M. You may have already alluded to it a minute ago, but is that something that's important to you as the athletic director of Texas to seeing A&M back on the schedule on an annual basis?
Well, and I think you think about Auburn and not playing Alabama. Was it for 40 years?
Yeah.
For 40 years, I won
Exactly.
this huge stretch. You could never imagine that. I think what makes college so great is the rivalries, those deep-rooted family rivalries that last a lifetime. You cherish, your mom and dad took you, their parents took them, your grandparents. And when you can see the rivalries of schools and what it means to them, those are so important for us not to play A&M. For these years, it's just sad. It's ludicrous. I feel bad for the state of Texas. I feel bad for our fan bases. But the same thing with Arkansas, not playing Arkansas. Coach Royal, and they retired on the exact same day, Coach Royal and Coach Broyles. They had this storied history in the 60s, playing for national championships, the greatest game in the century. You start to think of all those things. So us to go back and rekindle those games on an annual basis, I just think is great for college. It's great for our community. So rivalries, in my opinion, really matter in sport. And to be able to keep the Oklahoma game in Dallas, as a rival, and go back and rekindle those old relationships, it's just exciting time.
Chris, it's a good problem to have, but Texas, you have A&M, you mentioned Arkansas, you mentioned Oklahoma. There's only so many games you can play, though, however you guys figure this thing out. But I'm assuming that you can't let the Oklahoma game get away either, can you?
Oh, of course not. But I don't forget you throwing our helmet there when we played Arkansas a couple of years ago. So I can't wait to get you back on Texas soil soon enough, right?
Hey, by the way, every time I go to Arkansas, they say that they had that somebody sent us the bill for that. I apologize now that you're part of the SEC. I didn't mean anything by it.
It does not go unnoticed, my friend. So we have a pretty good welcome when you come. Okay.
I know, Commissioner, when we talked to you on that summer day a year and a half ago, it was awkward because of the legality. Now that that is out of the way, I know you've visited the campuses of both. What can you say about the fact that Oklahoma and Texas now are finally coming in, and we know when?
Yeah, well, a couple things about that day. We really, the news had popped at media days, 8 or 9 days early, and I think I did my best to avoid you,
You did.
on a day-to-day basis. So I felt badly about the relational issues we had there for a moment. We also wanted to be respectful. I recognize still the turmoil I caused in a relationship with Bob Bowlesby and in his leadership. But we also, in talking with both presidents, they were very clear with me that July of 2021 was not the moment to be launching fireworks and producing videos. Others have taken different approaches in those moments, but we wanted to be as respectful as we could in the difficult circumstance. So that was part of what you saw. The second part was recognizing the entry date was dictated by existing contractual agreements, and we're now clear of those. We now can watch a little bit of video production on social media. We can talk about 16 just means more. We can look towards the future. And what you look at is we're going to have like the two greatest music cities in this country between Nashville and Austin in this league. If you've been to Oklahoma City to visit for the Softball World Series and see the growth of that city, that's pretty special. It fits in places like Athens and Nashville and Lexington, and I could name them all. You see really high-level competitive athletics with leading universities like we have. That's incredibly exciting. Our fan bases. I was traveling through Memphis. I've told this story a few years ago when Delta had bought out Northwest and Memphis was still a hub for Delta, and Texas had played in Oxford, and just the overwhelming representation of the Texas fans. This is one of those expansions that's really unique in that we restore rivalries. Texas A&M playing Texas, Arkansas playing Texas, dating back to some of their legendary games in the 60s. Uniquely for like our legal friends, Oklahoma and Georgia have this relationship around the Board of Regents case that really changed college football and the nature of college football TV. And there are any number of other relationships and interactions that will make what we're going to have special. And I've been kind of overwhelmed starting last night with the number of points of outreach for people who want to talk about our future, what it means. And I think that's representation of the full scope of excitement we all have in front.
We had Chris Del Conte on the other day, and he talked about naturally playing A&M. He wants to see that game revved up again. Nobody would dare undo the OU Texas game. What about Oklahoma? Obviously, Texas is on the board, but there are a lot of schools close to you, well, at least closer to you than to maybe some other places. What would fit Oklahoma in terms of natural games if we end up going to the 4-team pods, which would mean Oklahoma would play Texas, and who else would the Sooner fans want to see on a regular basis?
Well, the Sooners themselves, the OU brass, they would sign up for Arkansas and Missouri very quickly because, they've started playing Missouri in the teens, in the 19 teens, and we're in a league with Missouri for, a century basically. And then Arkansas, Fayetteville to Norman is 243 miles. And they never play each other. I think OU last went 1919 was the last time the Sooners played at Fayetteville.
It's been a while.
But, been a while. So I think OU would take Arkansas, Missouri, and Texas, and I think the rest of the SEC would say, I bet you would. So, I don't expect the Sooners to get that trio. Some people think A&M and Oklahoma because of the Big 12 ties. But I don't know that A&M. I think A&M probably would prefer LSU. From what I've read, I don't claim inside knowledge on that.
That's a big game.
It seems to me, and a lot of other people have done this. I've done it. Put a pencil to it. It seems like maybe the Sooners could get handed a sort of a non-traditional type annual rival, somebody like Florida, because the Gators, besides Georgia. Don't have, it doesn't appear to be somebody that's sort of a natural especially among the people we consider the upper crust of the SEC. So I think it wouldn't surprise me if Sooners ended up with somebody like Texas, Florida, and Missouri as the annual rivals. That sounds like maybe something that would be a compromise for everything.
Let's get to the juicy stuff, Connor. You've taken a deep dive into many, many different camps. So, what are you looking for this spring?
How about Robert Patrick Petrino, the new offensive coordinator at Texas A&M? The guy that I'd say is a household name in college football, just football in general, is going to be working with Jimbo Fisher. And Jimbo Fisher is not in total control of his offense for the first time since, 1998? I mean, first time in 25 years that he is not going to be the point person on the offensive side of the ball. And meanwhile, Bobby Petrino, a guy who has only been a head coach for the last 2 decades of his career, how is that dynamic going to play out? I don't know that we're going to get a whole lot in spring. Usually vibes are pretty good in spring. You're not seeing a whole lot of those blow-ups. If you are, maybe that's a sign of some pretty bad things to come. But I'm fascinated to see the way that plays out. And, of course, A&M fans want to know, can Bobby Petrino develop Connor Wigman? Can he get this offense to a place that it hasn't been in the last 2 years? And can Jimbo Fisher ultimately relinquish control and kind of follow the way of Josh Heupel and Lane Kiffin in terms of the offensive-minded head coaches who have been able to give up some of those play-calling duties, and they've been better for it.
Sam Pittman wants to improve the secondary. Got a dog to do it in Shaheem Singletary. He needs a big year.
As it's about to unfold before our eyes, and the man that's in charge of this whole operation joining us now, Coach Sam Pittman down on the field. Coach, thanks for joining us. And obviously a lot of excitement when you get some new coordinators. You got a bunch of transfers, some young guys. What's it been like the last few weeks gathering the group together, and what have you seen from your guys that really impressed you?
Well, I don't know. I'm sure it could have gone better. I don't know how much better. Been really excited about our new hires. Obviously, they had big shoes to fill, and Coach Odom and Coach Browse, both of them excellent coordinators, but very, very happy with where we are. I like the culture of the team. I'm very happy, very pleased with the 2 guys that we hired.
So I got to go to the quarterback first, Coach, and I'm super excited to see KJ. Always excited to see him when he's out there. His development in this new system with Enos. What have you seen from him over the 14 days, and what can we expect this afternoon?
Well, I think it's really helped him. Coach is a little bit more of a pro-style offense, and I think it's going to help KJ in the future. I think it's going to help us now, but a lot of individual work, technique work, and I think he's taken to it, and I think he's doing a really good job with it. And you'll have to ask him, but I think him and Dan have a really good relationship.
Obviously this will be a different looking offense, and as we will see it here unfold before our eyes but what will it, how different will it be from what we saw the last couple of years with Coach Briles running the show?
I just think formationally, personnel, we're trying to get a little bit heavier with tight ends. We'll be in more 12s, possibly 13, maybe a little bit more 20 personnel, more personnel driven. Obviously, we're going to play a slower brand of football, so your quarterback's going to have to be into checks and things of that nature when we get to the line of scrimmage. But for the most part, I like to run the ball, I like to play action, and I like to go deep. So that's exactly what Dan likes, and that's why I hired him.
It's a dream come true for a quarterback, Coach. I want to talk about the physicality a little bit. What's it been like for spring this year, maybe different from last year, that gives you confidence as you head into the offseason?
Well, we've tackled. We've been physical. This will be our third live tackle of the spring, and I didn't do it last year. I made a mistake. I think you can win positions better if everything's live. Let's look at it. If your quarterback's never live, you really don't know what you have until the season starts. Now, nobody's going to make the quarterback live. But if you don't tackle, you've kind of made everybody on your team non-live as well. We wanted to get away from that, and we're finding out more and more about our football team this spring, I feel.
All right, last thing before we let you go. Where will your eyes be today? What are you going to be focused on?
Just the physicality of the line of scrimmage. I'm hoping I see out of our defensive line what I've seen all spring. I'm hoping some of the movements that we've made up front on offensive line can kind of build our confidence of where we're going to go in the fall. And I think that would be the biggest focus there. And then we need some transfers in the secondary and transfers in the wide receiver group to kind of man up and take ownership of those spots as well.
All right, buddy. Thanks. Always a pleasure. Thanks for having us, and always great to see you.
All right, guys. Good to see y'all. Thank you for being here.
You got it. Sam Pittman getting ready to watch his boys.
Work today from 5-step to 3-step drops and play action as well.
Yeah, KJ's really never taken snaps under center before. Drops it off quickly to the tight end, Nathan Bax.
Rotate 2 or 3.
Bryce Stevens goes in motion. KJ Jefferson will take it himself. And they'll have him down. Of course, quarterbacks not to be tackled.
Defense, but they got the size and they got the speed.
It'll be second down. They'll hand it off to Sanders. And he'll be hit inside the 45 down to the 43-yard line.
They have a couple guys that can stretch the field from that spot, and he's one of them.
They'll throw it, coming near side. Tesla with the catch, and he'll be knocked out of bounds near the 31. So on 4th and 2, they pick up the first down and
throw in the flat for the first.
A.J. Green checks in at running back. They'll fake it to him, throw over the middle, and a big collision inside the 20 around the 18-yard line. That's Isaac Tesla. They'll run it to the right side. A.J. Green gets the corner, and he's inside the 10 and flipped over around the 6-yard line. Hand it off to A.J. Green, cuts it back and dives in for the touchdown from 6 yards out. Kate Fortin in at quarterback, and he'll hand it off to Rocket Sanders. Woo, that's a big old boy. You could hear that collision all the way up here in our broadcast position.
Below the waist, because he's going to run you over like that.
Inside handoff goes to Sanders. That'll be a first down close to the 40-yard line. But Fortin. Pass is caught inside the 30. That'll be good enough for first look at the freshman from Kennesaw, Georgia, Malachi Singleton. Throws on the run, a nice looking pass inside the 50-yard line. That'll be a first down, a gain of 17.
Do the little things right.
Handoff off the right side to Bockert. Jezreel Bacarda.
Decent heading into summertime, but still a lot of work to be done come fall camp.
They will hand it or keep it with Singleton, who gets into the end zone. Might have got away with one. Looked like a defensive player might have been able to grab a jersey back there about 5 yards after the line of scrimmage.
And so far, he looks good. Looks like he's in command of the offense. And
he's not in command of the football. He puts that one on the deck, and it's recovered by the defense.
And making sure that I'm doing what I need to do.
Speaking of having a coach, you have a bunch of brand new receivers from different spots, the guys that transferred in, freshman receiver. But they all look good. I mean, I was surprised with the size of those guys. Watching them in practice yesterday. How excited are you?
Look complex, but remain simple on offense. I mean, that's our motto. I mean, we want to throw different looks at the defense and try to get them off balance and just being able to just run our offense, but throw different little eye candy in there as well. So,
and some older guys that have played a little bit in their career on the roster as well.
Criswell pitches it near side. And how many from a guard spot, 30 career starts. He's a preseason All-American on some lists already. Handoff to Sanders. Patrick Kudus, they move from guard out to tackle.
It's really going to press that next level.
KJ stepping up. Right down the middle, pass is caught there. And that'll be a touchdown for Satania, as he goes 65 yards as KJ Jefferson hit him right in the numbers.
I mean, this is something that's always been impressive from KJ. The step, get up in the pocket, keep his eyes down the field, and then throws a dart to Satanga. And they're excited about number 16. I mean, they like to get him the ball in space, whether it's jet sweeps, tunnel screens, but has that speed and that quickness to step on the toes of the defender like he did right there, get on top, and then KJ with the accuracy down the field to hit him for the touchdown.
Nino's told us yesterday about the importance of every single rep they can get KJ is an important one. And he keeps it here, and he'll take it down around the 45-yard line. KJ stands tall in that pocket, throws it underneath. Pass is caught there by Andrew Armstrong. Andrew. Jefferson, quick slant over the middle on third down. Incomplete. He was trying to hit Bryce Stevens. Coverage on that back end by Jalen Lewis. Cade Fortin underneath. Pass caught there by Ty Washington.
I think defensive tackle, they just need more bodies now that they've run a 4-down front to be able to get a good rotation in there.
Boy, big collision. Bakke made the catch, held on to the football. Pass is caught for a first down around the 20-yard line. Also a track star in high school, was the Arkansas Gatorade Track and Field Performer of the Year. To the corner of the end zone, trying to hit the aforementioned Satania. How about his day? 17 yards.
I mean, first off, let's give the quarterback some love too. Cade with an absolute dime. You know, don't sleep on the throw. I mean, put it. If you want to put the trash can in the back of the end zone, he put it in the trash can. Games they play outside the conference as well.
Nice catch on the outside by Landon Rogers.
Only 15 practices in that this offense looks pretty darn good here in this scrimmage.
Again, goes back to Talley. The redshirt freshman. And again, some pressure from that defensive line. This time Singleton. I think it's just critical for those guys to be ready to play in the fall.
I mean, 12 guys mid-year. It's amazing, Dave, the difference. You know, even 12 years ago, I was a mid-year guy.
The Binion at running back. He gets the handoff and is met immediately in the backfield for a loss of 4.
A little hesitant if the quarterback has 4 or 5 seconds to throw the football.
Broken tackle by Bakke, and he will get it down the near sideline to the 34-yard line.
That safety coming down to get the first.
Singleton now at quarterback. Oh, boy, what a throw. Boy, he just dropped that right between a couple of defenders to Ty Washington.
I want to talk about that tight end group once again. Does a great job in the route running of getting the safety to be on the inside, gaining that leverage immediately based on his initial
spring scrimmage, and then have a couple of practices after that to kind of button up things. But this is it for Arkansas. And
before summertime.
So Arkansas looks like they're going to be working on red zone. They'll start with the high red zone here in period 10. They'll do a little sweep to Bakke, and it works quite well. 18 yards for the touchdown around that right side.
They can run through plays, they can watch film, and the same thing in the summertime. You know, it's no longer just the quarterback leading these workouts. Coaches can go out there and actually meet with them. So I think a lot of these new rules benefit a team that needs it, like Arkansas, when it comes to the new staff.
Nice little pitch and catch there. That ball's batted in the air, and it's picked off. Picked off by Ladarius Bishop. You think the defense likes that?
That's a great job by Antonio Greer, though. You know, similar to what he did in practice yesterday.
Over the back of the end zone, and touchdown. Khalil Geralt. Criswell throws on the run, right in the numbers of Armstrong. That'll be a first down. Well, before we get out of here, this is going to be one of the great nickname teams in 2023. So we wanted to get you set. Snacks is one of those nicknames, but look at some of these nicknames. Trajan Jeffcoat transferred in from Missouri, call him Tree. How about Rocket? We've known him for a little bit. Now, I don't know about Nudie. I'm not sure the story there.
Yeah, some off-the-field preferences that, you know, we don't want to get into.
But you got Day Day, Fortnite, you got Pooh, Bubba, Tank. I mean, just some good ones.
Oh, yeah. I love Snacks, though. Yeah. He was bringing Snacks into the meeting back at Baylor and just got dubbed that his freshman year. No snacks in meetings. You can have some sunflower seeds. But no, you can't be eating in the meeting. Distracting, there's crumbs on the ground. Save the eating for the lunchroom.
I think that's going to wrap it up with our nicknames. We'll take a break, come back, put a wrap on it. Even had the classic cars out in the parking lot. Part of the festivities here at the 2023 Arkansas Red-White game on a Woo Pig weekend. As we've wrapped up the spring game and got to see KJ Jefferson, Rocket Sanders, and what this might look like in the fall with new coordinators on both sides of the football. And this is where it all starts, September 2nd against Western Carolina. A week later, Kent State. Then it's BYU, and then really the season unfolds in a hurry at LSU, A&M, Ole Miss, Alabama. And it'll be a while before they get back to Reynolds Razorback Stadium once they take off for Baton Rouge on September 23rd. They won't be back until October 21st for a true home game. But, Aaron Murray, your thoughts about today. Obviously, new look team, both sides of the ball. What'd you make of it?
I thought it was great. I thought it was really good. I thought the offense was extremely impressive for only, being here for 15 practices to be able to execute the way they did today. I think that's a huge win for Coach Enos and that the quarterbacks, the receivers look good, get the tight ends involved. And then defensively, brand new look, too, that 4 down. And you saw the speed of the defensive line. There's defensive ends coming off the edge, the looping. I thought the defensive end, or the DBs played well, too. So I think overall, you walk away from this as a fan, as a coaching staff, as a player, saying that was a win. I've seen some some sloppy spring games. This one was extremely well organized with some great plays on both sides.
Well, now it's time to look at some film, maybe hit the transfer portal, pick up a couple extra guys, and lock in for August when these players and coaches will return to campus for real and get ready for the 2023 season and try to improve on that 7-6 record from a year ago. So for Aaron Murray and the rest of our crew, hope you've enjoyed this, a sneak peek of Arkansas football of 2023. We're all winners today, even though there was no score on the board. Aaron, you really won today.
You won too, my friend.
So for Aaron Murray, I'm Dave Neal saying so long, everybody.
Coach Pittman, you've been here a couple of years now as a head coach. You still seem like you're one of these kids at the beach looking for autographs.
I am. I walked into the staff in there and saw all the nameplates. I about took a picture. Nobody else was in there. I about took a picture. But I sat right next to Coach Saban, and to be perfectly honest with you, it's a thrill every year that we come down here.
Coach, the controversy so far, there may be another one, but so far has been about the schedule. Inside those meetings, coaches, what do they say about that part of the schedule?
Not a lot. I think the thing that really made it easy for all of us, whether it be 8 or 9, I'm not speaking for everybody, but for me, was that our kids that come and they stay for 4 years, they're going to get to play in every stadium in the SEC. Right. And every team's going to get to come in and play in Razorback Stadium. And I think for our fans, that's going to be really cool too. So 8 or 9, I think either way, they've got in the they've got it kind of figured out, I think.
Either way.
I think so. And you have to ask the athletic directors about what they'd want to do with the 4 versus 3. But another thing, you go to 9, that gives you, 8 more losses inside the conference as well. It's not broke right now. I don't know what they're going to do, but we're taking teams to the national championship, and with 8, it's not broke. If they decide to go to 9, we'll do that as well.
Yeah, whether anybody likes it or not, it's been a pretty successful formula so far.
It has for our conference.
Coach Napier was here a minute ago talking about NIL and the portal, which everybody talks about.
Yeah.
I don't know who's solving it, but I know everybody's talking about it. How have you dealing with this?
I feel comfortable that Mr. Sankey is working hard trying to get solutions. I think that's what we need. The transfer portal, I personally believe that it's open too long. I think it needs to close down. I think kids who go in the transfer portal, they know they're going to transfer way faster than 45 days. And NIL, I think it's a really good thing. I think maybe we've messed it up a little bit in our recruiting, but I think it's good. Guys, if somebody knows their name, image, and likeness, I feel like they deserve to share in some type of money, be compensated. So we just got to come. It just went so fast and it got out of hand, to be perfectly honest with you.
I think this is a good thing. I voiced the tease and still got goosebumps.
I'm telling you.
I mean, come on now. Dori Noka, Peter Burns, welcome in. It is SEC Now. 2024 football opponents reveal, folks. Yes, that includes Oklahoma. That includes Texas. A beautiful squad of 16 great programs. And over the next 60 minutes, you're going to get a bunch of voices. Tim Tebow, Greg McElroy, Dusty Dvorak, Takeo Spikes, Chris Doering, Paul Feinbaum. I think I hit them all.
I think you did. And what we will do in this show is the who and the where. Who's playing who and where they are playing. The when will be announced a little bit later this season. Of course, you just talked about it. Texas and Oklahoma joining this board in 24. And, of course, no division. So prepare for your mind to be blown.
And remember, this is only for 2024. It has nothing to do with whatever format, what opponents you might see in 25 and beyond. This is one and done. As you said earlier, it's a one and done schedule. So there were some parameters in the league putting this together. In fact, you're looking at some. Each of the existing 14 conference members will play either the Sooners or Longhorns, home or away, in 24. No school's going to travel to the same location to which it traveled in 23. So, for example, Georgia plays at Auburn this coming season. Those two teams will not play there again in 24. Two primary factors used to determine conference opponents, traditional opponents, and balance of overall schedule strength that went back over a decade. came up with win percentages and conference play for all 16 institutions and built schedules as closely in terms of comparison of schedule strength as possible. And again, as PB said, no divisions. Top 2 of the 16 will play in Atlanta.
Awesome. It's part of the cast of characters. Takeo, Spike, Chris Doran. Weird to see you guys here in June, man. Nice to come in. You know that's something big, right, Key?
It's huge. Football is now 12 months a year.
Mm-hmm. It really is. It feels like a little like the NFL page here where we're trying to be relevant all year long throughout the calendar, and this is a great time to celebrate it, man. I am most excited to talk about 2 things here. What rivalry games were retained, and what notable games are going to be added.
Funny you should say that, so let's get right into it. But LSU and Arkansas will still continue to play for the Golden Boot. We've seen some fantastic matchups between those 2 neighboring states and a fantastic trophy as well. I think there's a couple other teams we need to talk about. Dart?
How about Arkansas? We showed you Texas's schedule or opponents. You saw Arkansas on that. Remember the last time they played Arkansas, thumped them in Fayetteville. Here's the rest of the opponents on the Razorback schedule in 24 home games against LSU, Ole Miss, and Tennessee, as well as Texas. And you see the road slate in front of you guys.
To me, it's the Texas game. And Dusty mentioned it a little bit earlier. Having an opportunity to get that rivalry back together. I know how much it meant to the Arkansas fans when they beat Texas in 2021.
If I'm Arkansas, I'm ecstatic about this schedule. Why? Because as a coach, you want to win the ones that's on your home turf. LSU, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Texas, all big games.
Sneaky, entertaining matchup in 24.
My gut is telling me Tennessee versus Oklahoma. The last time we saw Josh Heupel be a part of this, he won a national championship. He also came back to coach at Oklahoma. This is going to be my sneaky good game, and I think the reason why is this. I've never been a coach, but as a player, when you have ties to something or a team in the past, you want to come back and establish your dominance. So best believe he's going to say it's going to be another game. Nah, it ain't going to be another game. The intensity during practice throughout that week, CD, it's going to be picked up.
Yeah, for me, it's Texas and Arkansas. We saw this in 2021. The Arkansas fans were out of their minds excited about this game being renewed. We didn't know the history of it. You date back to the 1800s. 1894 is when this game was first played. Southwest Conference rivals being able to be brought back together. This is one I think it's going to be not only fun, but there's a little hatred involved, too.
It was a good time for Texas to have that game, too, to kind of realize, hey, listen, line of scrimmage play is going to be a little bit different in the
Very
SEC
physical
going
in that
up.
one.
That's field storming. I'm probably not supposed to mention field storming. I'll never forget what that was. All right.
You guys excited? Now we're going to wait a year and a half.
Yes. Again, dates for these, a little bit later in the year. You can't book any flights just yet.
We begin with very sad news that many in the world of sports are having to deal with. Ryan Mallett, who spent 1 year at Michigan before transferring to Arkansas, where he had a brilliant career. He also spent 7 years in the NFL, has died at a very young age. He was only 35 years old. He drowned at a Florida beach. He had been coaching high school ball in his native Arkansas. And many people are literally in shock today at this news. As we say hello to Wally Hall, who has been covering the University of Arkansas for the Arkansas Democrat for all of our lives and then some. Wally, thanks for the time. Always love to joke around with you and kid around and look forward to the season. But as we say hello to you today, tell us what your readers and listeners and friends all across Arkansas and everywhere, for that matter, are saying about this incredible tragedy. Good afternoon.
Well, as you can imagine, Paul, it's almost like a state of shock that somebody, as big and strong and athletic and young as Ryan was would drown. And this is just months after Peyton Hillis, a former Razorback running back, almost drowned, saving his son and niece from drowning. So it's really kind of hitting them double hard and brings up the memory of Peyton, who is still suffering from taking in so much salt water. But Ryan was a guy that you would say he was bigger than life, but he never sought the limelight after his playing days. Yeah,
that's so interesting, Wally, because you know these people, and then they go on and do whatever they do. In his case, his passion was coaching. Talk a little bit about that for a second, because he started as an assistant, he moved up, and it looked like that was something he was very serious about.
Well, he grew up in a coaching family. In fact, his parents met at a football game at Arkansas Tech, where his dad was working and his mom was teaching. And they met there, and they're educators and coaches in the background. His dad still coaches. He's got a sister who is an educator. So it ran in his family. And he had a quote in the Pine Bluff commercial when he took the job. He said, "I always knew I was going to be a head football coach." He said, "I always knew it." So, and that community had really embraced him, and he had embraced it, and they're just in shock. When somebody's 35, you just don't expect it. There's sometimes when somebody's older or ill, it feels right. This doesn't feel right.
Well, let's go back. He grew up in the state. He went to Michigan, and I really don't remember much about that. I know obviously we all remember him coming back. What led him away initially?
I think the lure of the Big Ten, and there was also some debate going on in Arkansas about stadiums, and he was from Texarkana, Texas, not Texarkana, Arkansas. So he didn't quite have the same loyalty. Although once he decided to change, there was only one school on his map, and he was recruited by Houston Nutt, but just who resigned before he ever played. And so Mallett sat out a year under Bobby Petrino, and I just got through looking this up because I was curious. And their 2 years together, and Paul, they were like a marriage. They would get crossed up, but they were always on the same page, and nobody else was allowed in the argument. They went 18-8, including a 10-3 season where they went to Arkansas's only bowl championship series game ever. 18-8, you have to go back to 1988-89 to have two consecutive seasons better than that, and that was when Ken Hatfield was coaching. He went 10-2. 2 consecutive seasons, and resigned after the second one to take the job at Clemson.
That's amazing. And you think about that time, and I mean, you go back to 09, 2010. At that moment in time, Arkansas was considered among the elite in the SEC. And yes, I don't want to shock anyone by saying this, Bobby Petrino was considered about the second best coach in the league, wasn't he, Wally?
I would say so. And I know we're talking about Ryan, but I will tell you this, Paul. If Jimbo Fisher lets those reins go, which everybody's kind of skeptical about, Bobby Petrino will make them 25% better immediately. He's an offensive genius. There's no rhyme or reason to the plays he's calling, except that they're successful.
Talking to Wally Hall about an incredible death. And Wally, there are never words. You've been encountering this as I have for so often. In terms of people remembering Mallett, what are they saying? And at 35, there's not that much to remember other than his playing career. His coaching career was just getting underway. But try to encapsulate for us what you've been hearing all day.
Mostly the number one thing is one play. Everybody remembers him for this. Time was running out in the second half against LSU, who they don't beat very often. And with no time left, last play of the first half, he hits one of his high school teammates, Kobe Hamilton, for an 80-yard touchdown. And then to win the game, in the fourth quarter, he passed to Joe Adams, who was being covered by a guy named Honey Badger. And so that's the game that everybody remembers out of all the ones he played, 26 games for Arkansas. And, I mean, he's in 2 seasons. He's in most of the statistics for total yards. You know, he is the leader for one season for touchdowns and yards. But, I mean, for career, after just 2 years, he's in the top 4 or 5 in most categories.
Ryan Mallett. Wally, thanks. It was so good to see you when I was your way not that long ago, and we hope to see you very soon. I have a feeling we will, and at that moment,
You're going to be in Nashville, aren't you?
Yeah, we'll be up there. And then, I did a lot I do want to talk to you about concerning the upcoming season, but I felt like today we really just wanted to concentrate on Ryan, and I deeply appreciate what you coming on.
Keep his family, Jim and Debbie, in your hearts. They're really hurting.
We will do so, Wally. Wally Hall, thank you so much. Wally Hall, who is an absolute legend in the state of Arkansas, has been the preeminent writer and broadcaster, and we will continue to remember the Mallett family throughout the program. And this from Hunter Yurachek about a celebration of Ryan Mallett's life, 8 o'clock tonight, and certainly the entire Arkansas community is mourning. Speaking of mourning, remember we gave you this news the other day about Coach Price, and July 8th will be the celebration of life to the coach and former player in Aggie land. He says, we'll talk to Professor Lenz right now. Thank you very much for joining us, Professor. Always good to talk to you. I know we have on the screen that you're a former attorney. I guess that's every attorney's dream, to be referred to as a former attorney, isn't it?
That's right, Paul. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you very much, Professor. Let's talk about a number of things with the NCAA. And one thing that I'm curious of your view on, with your vast legal background, I understand you're also married to a law professor, is this stipulation that they came out with the other day that talked about how their rules need to be followed even when they're in conflict with state rules. Again, I feel like with the Supreme Court being in the news all day, maybe we're heading in disparate directions here. But can you explain that to us lay people, exactly what they're getting at here, and can they pull this off?
Yeah, that's a fascinating thing to talk about. And the NCAA is relying on the fact that it's a voluntary organization, and it's trying to point out to schools that to be a member of the NCAA, you agree to follow its myriad rules. So they're reminding schools, you've got to follow our rules, even if state law is different and is more permissive than our rules. You still have to follow our organization's rules.
And not to get too deep into law, but I doubt this is the first time this conflict has occurred in American history. But I'm curious where this thing goes in the event that we get a case where some university, and already we've got some information from Ross Bjork at Texas A&M, who has indicated he'll encourage people to follow the state law. What happens if this becomes a conflict?
Well, hey, it's fascinating. I mean, I'm sure you'll remember this, but it was not that long ago, 6, 7, 8 years ago, that the NCAA had the juice where it could say to a state, we don't like your law, change your law, or we're not going to host championships in your state anymore. And the NCAA had from about the late 90s to up until 2016, 2017, where they had a lot of success using that economic juice, that economic threat that we're not going to come in your state and host championships unless you change your law. I mean, the last time they did that was with the so-called bathroom bill in the state of North Carolina. Right. And again, the NCAA had success in getting a state law changed as recently as 2016, 17, 18, and I don't know that that's going to happen in Texas or Oklahoma anymore, and so now these schools are in a tough spot. Schools in those states, they're going to have to decide whether to follow NCAA rules or utilize the more permissive state laws and try to gain an advantage over schools in other states that don't have those permissive laws.
And Professor, as you well know, what they were dealing with there was their championships, which were very important economically to North Carolina, whether it was Charlotte or somewhere else, that hosted very lucrative events. But this seems a little bit different, though, and I think this would involve enforcement. And I don't mean to paint this broad brush of the NCAA, but I don't find too many people outside of lip service that seem to really care what the NCAA says anymore in relation to enforcing the rules.
Yeah, and you're right to pick up on this. So I mean, I think where this is probably heading, and I think what you're hinting at here is if we have a school that says we're going to stick with our state law, we're going to follow our state law, and in doing so, we're going to violate NCAA rules, then the NCAA enforcement staff is, if the NCAA follows through, big if, they're going to come in, they're going to do an investigation, they're going to allege NCAA violations, and they're going to go through that infractions process. And if they find that NCAA rules, or maybe in this case, guidelines were broken, they might try to penalize the school, at which point we might end up with litigation.
And Professor, the perception, at least, and I realize you don't teach and look at interpretations based on what the prevailing wind is, but the perception is that the NCAA doesn't want another fight because of their recent record with litigation, especially with the Supreme Court in Alston and in other cases. Do you think this is a fight they would really want, considering the perceived weakness of the NCAA these days?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and I mean, if you think about it, I mean the NCAA is literally over 1,000 universities, and so you probably have hundreds who are telling the NCAA, hey, we want you to enforce your NIL restrictions. We want these guidelines followed. We want these other schools to follow it, because these schools in these states now that have more permissive laws, they have all these advantages. So we want you to uphold your guidelines, uphold your rules. And so the NCAA is in a tough spot. But yeah, I think the NCAA's gotta service its members, and if you have the vast majority of members wanting those guidelines followed, they've got to do something. But then again, they've been threatening now for almost 2 years that they're going to enforce these guidelines, and we haven't seen that happen yet.
Professor, give us the view from the campus, because it's so easy for me or others in my position to pontificate, to give hot takes on the NCAA, but I'm also not on the front line. I'm not on a college campus as a member institution, as you have so eloquently pointed out. What's it like being on a campus, one that wants to be perceived as following the rules, one that is a member in good standing? I'm sure the view is a little bit different, is it not?
Well, and so I've got a compliance background. I worked in compliance at a Big 12 university, and I choose to believe that the NCAA is trying to do its best, and that schools are trying to do their best. But I mean, the NCAA's own president has said in not so many words that the NCAA's messed this thing up, right? That they didn't get out in front of NIL. They should have had more guidelines in place when they allowed collegiate athletes to profit off their NIL. But we can't go back and try to fix that. The best thing we can do is try to figure this thing out and move forward.
So let me ask you a speculative question for someone who's dealt in the minutia of rules, who has the legal background and who would like to see some sort of accommodations be made. What is the road ahead for NIL in dealing with boosters who don't seem to care one bit about the NCAA rules versus an organization that, at least on paper, on surface, is trying to enforce the rules?
If I knew that, I'd be a very rich person right now. But, I think the road ahead, honestly, I wonder if this memo that you referenced at the outset, the kind of the warning shot that the NCAA put out earlier this week, you said you used the term speculative. Well, is the NCAA striking out with Congress, right? Are they not going to get this federal legislation that they've been asking for a year? And so now is this kind of Hail Mary might be a strong term. Is this an attempt to save face and try to show that it can still enforce its rules, that it's still as somewhat relevant as it used to be? Is that why they're choosing to again threaten to enforce their own rules? But I'd like to think that there's a way that we can make this work, right? That that athletes can monetize their name, image, and likeness. But I think that the NCAA's big focus right now is on the so-called NIL collectives, and they don't like what's going on with recruiting inducements and pay for play, and they're trying to figure out a way to allow athletes to monetize their NIL, but stay away from recruiting inducements. But again, is it too late for that?
Well, Professor, we are about to find out here very soon. Thank you very, very much, Professor Josh Lenz, joining us from London and welcoming in an old friend. Not that old, really. Michael Braden from the SEC podcast. Michael, great to see you. Thanks so much for dropping by. Who have you been ticking off today?
Primarily Kentucky, but you ask me that in a couple hours, I can give you a different team, Paul. So it's a pleasure to be here as always.
So why are you, I hate to do this in staccato, but why are you ticking off Kentucky fans?
Well, all I said, Paul, was that Mark Stoops, good coach, not great. Wouldn't have him as a top 25 coach in the country. And I think 10 years of data bear that out because he beats who he's supposed to beat. He rarely beats anybody he's supposed to. And then when he does, he turns around and loses a game he's supposed to win. So very good coach, but I'd give him a C grade if I was giving him an A, B, C, D type grade. So good, maybe the best in school history, but that's not saying much considering it's Kentucky.
Man, you're forcing me to go through all the coaches with now that you're Professor Michael. Let's stay in the East as long as we're taking names here. Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Clark Lee. What about him?
Yeah, I mean, it's early to grade him, Paul, but of course the 2 SEC wins, that was 2 more than most thought they'd get. And beating Florida, beating Kentucky, that was one of the games I was alluding to with Stoops. I'd probably give him a C- right now.
C-, man, you are. Remind me never to have you if I ever become a kid again. No, I don't want you and my geometry teacher. Come on. Okay.
Well, I mean, the best thing he's done is won 5 games. He's got a long way to go,
Okay.
Paul. Again, it's hard to grade someone after 2 seasons.
Okay, the guy that I hear a lot about on this show, from a personal standpoint, he's a riot. I don't know about as a coach. Coach Drink at Missouri.
I mean, I think it's fair to say C-. I don't know that he's had a winning season yet. He's kind of the same deal. I mean, this is kind of a make or break year. I know they just gave him an extension, but we both know that's not worth the paper that it's printed on.
Okay, let's stay in the East since I'm looking down at for the final time for final year of divisions. Josh Heupel, Tennessee. Come on, give him a better grade than a C-.
A
Okay,
for Josh Heupel,
finally.
no doubt. I mean, one of the top 10 coaches in the country, I think.
Oh, that was good. Shane Beamer, South Carolina.
I'd give him a B+. Again, it's early in his tenure, but he's overachieved both years at Columbia. I think plenty of people, when we get to media days, are going to be doubting South Carolina again. I think that's exactly where Shane Beamer and company want to be.
2 more by my count in the SEC East. That would be Kirby Smart.
A+. I mean, that's the easiest one on the board. He's the
Okay.
best coach in the country.
This one's not easy, or maybe it is. Billy Napier, Florida.
F. No, at least for last year. I mean, he did.
Man,
he had the number 4 in the draft.
An
Paul.
F for Billy Napier, man. I mean, were you a good student growing up?
No, it was terrible.
Okay, so you're now. I know the type. You're the guy that used to look at the smart kids and say, "Man, if I ever have a chance, I'm coming after you guys."
Exactly, Paul. So I mean, if you were grading me, I'd lucky to be a D.
You're maybe worse than that after this appearance. Okay, so that's we got everybody in the East. Let's get to the West. Arkansas, Sam Pittman.
I mean, I think he is firmly a B plus because I think the job he's done in his 3 years has just been tremendous considering the program he took over. So give me a B plus for Sam Pittman.
Auburn.
Hugh. I mean, this season will tell us a lot about Hugh Freeze. I think he's a little overrated, but a solid B, maybe a B plus for Hugh Freeze.
To tell you how hot it is outside, I almost said Brian Harsin when I gave you Auburn.
He's a solid F, Paul. We all know that.
How hot is it? Brian Harsin. Brian Kelly is what I was thinking of at LSU.
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, Paul, I don't follow Notre Dame that closely. We all heard what a great coach he is, and we all saw every time he faced an SEC team, he got, his pants brought down and spanked. So that was my perspective coming into last year, but I thought he smashed it. So give me an A for Brian Kelly. I did not see an SEC West championship coming in year one, and you know how high I am on them entering year two.
Talking to Michael Bratton, we're now in the state of Mississippi, the Magnolia State, the Lane Train.
Well, I'd probably give him a B plus coaching, A plus if we're talking his troll Twitter account. I mean, it's the best in the business.
Zach Arnett, State, in case you didn't know.
I mean, it's kind of incomplete. It won the bowl game. Great job managing the situation, but if I had to give him a grade, I'd just give him a C just because we don't know what we have in Zach Arnett yet.
If you ever watch the Miss America contest, it comes down to the final two. And there they are. And you know who they are, and the penultimate name we're giving you, you're probably not sure which one it is because either one is right into your wheelhouse, but we'll go Jimbo Fisher.
Jimbo Fisher, I mean, he's a great D. I'll give him a D right there.
Okay. Then the last one on the board, let me state some things you've never heard before. Nick Saban, the GOAT. Best coach in college football history. He will coach until he's 127. He's won 7 national championships. He owns everyone. What about a grade?
A plus, Paul. I mean, it was all the coordinator's fault the last couple of years. So Nick Saban, no blame on him. He is the greatest coach. I mean, I kid, but he's the greatest coach of all time. And even though I think Kirby, I'd take him today, if we're just going forward, he's got a long, long way to go before he catches up to Nick Saban.
All right, Arkansas, the Razorbacks, yes, sir, Sam Pittman will be second on the podium right now. Or today, what's the one thing you 100% know?
They have the best quarterback, running back duo
Dang
in the
it.
entire country.
Are you stealing my notes? It's exactly the same thing I had right now.
KJ and Rocket, I mean, it's a lethal combination, one, when you have KJ Jefferson in the lineup, so keeping him healthy is important. But Rocket Sanders is under-talked about, underappreciated. This is a guy that had the second most rushing yards in the country last year. That duo is going to have to carry the load because the passing game is under construction right now. You lose, 3 or 4 of your top receivers from last year. They're going to lean heavily on the run game.
Yeah, you stole it. I mean, literally, what did I say? Best duo in college football, which is Rocket and KJ. And I don't even know if there's anything close right now as far as even in the SEC, as far as a dynamic duo. And I almost wonder, this is one of those situations where just how big and scary the SEC is. If you put Arkansas in the ACC, I think they could win that.
Oh, they dominate.
They could win that conference. You put them right now in the Big Ten, I think that they could compete. You put them against the Pac-12, I think they can compete. The problem is you're going up against 6 or 7 other Goliaths right now, and they're still going to be a really good team. I do want to see what the wide receiver core is going to look like. All right, so for our boys David Basil and everybody listening right now up in Fayetteville, the vibe check is?
Well, we're going to go question. We're skipping that?
1,
I know, the biggest question.
Biggest question mark. Oh, that's me. That's on. That's my bad. My bad. Biggest question mark.
Defense has got to be better than they were last year. They just were miserable on
Secondary.
that side of the ball, which is hard to believe. Though, think about, just a couple years ago, they had maybe the best linebacker group in the entire conference. They've lost some guys on that side of the ball due to graduation and transfer portal. Defense has got to be the focal point of the training camp as they head towards the season.
Yeah, dead last secondary-wise last year, and they were able to get to the quarterback. They were number 1 in the SEC and I think 8th nationally as far as sacks, but they were just atrocious, their pass defense. That has to get better. I think Sam Pittman will address that. Now we're ready for the vibe check.
Vibe check. I'd say 7 probably.
I'm not going to let you steal my notes anymore. I've got number 7 right now. This feels awkward that we're agreeing way too much here.
University of Arkansas Razorbacks head football coach Sam Pittman.
Good afternoon, everybody. So my dad, I won that state championship in shot put, and my dad had a subtle way of saying, "Hey, son, why don't you stay down and watch the 6A throw?" I did. I wouldn't have made the finals. You know what I mean? Parents sometimes have a way of being nice to you. Congratulations, but you're still not very good, that type thing. But Greg, thank you so much for the introduction. The best of the best, William King. When they added David Cutcliffe to this group, enormous benefit for us coaches. Dave's been through all that and a very, very great hire. Very proud to be a part of the state of Arkansas, University of Arkansas, 3rd consecutive top 15 finish in the Director's Cup, a couple of indoor national championships with Bucky and Lance. The basketball team went to Sweet 16. Dave's team had a share of the SEC baseball championship. Today, we brought KJ Jefferson, our quarterback, who's on the verge of setting at least 6-7 records. Great leader for us, wonderful kid. Very proud of him. He is our leader. He's our leader both on the offense and the defense. Obviously, on one side of the ball, a lot of times you'll have leaders that are on that side of the ball. KJ is our team leader, and we're awful happy that he is. We brought Rocket Sanders, our running back, rushed for over 1,400 yards last year. The one thing I'll say about Rocket is he's never been in trouble. Class-wise, all his tutors, all the teachers love him. We do too. Gained another 10 pounds, is running faster than he ever has had a great offseason. Then Landon Jackson, you'll see him. He went from 236 at the end of last year to 280, running over 20 miles per hour. By the way, a nugget there, him and Grace, his fiance just got engaged a week or two ago. Last year, we were invited to our 3rd consecutive postseason bowl. Obviously, my first year, we weren't able to play the Texas Bowl because TCU had COVID problems. We've won 2 straight in a row. Last year's game against Kansas, it changed a lot for our program. At the end of the season last year, we had a lot of guys in the portal. We had coaches that left. And for us to go to Kansas with go to the Liberty Bowl, which was a great venue, and win that game with 9 starters out, it showed a lot about, people were concerned about what's going on with the program. Well, watch the Liberty Bowl. We've got 9 guys that are out, and we win the game against a very good opponent. we have to get some things fixed. I think we've had a good off season. We lost 4 games last year by 9 points, ended up winning 7 games. We've got a lot of situational football to get fixed. We've worked on it. I've worked on myself. I won't go for it on 4th down very often, so I have to work on it to see if we can get it a little bit more in practice. At the same time, we're helping the defense. Analytics certainly has changed football. I've got to get into it a little bit more than what I have in the past. But we have situational football. But our program is built on toughness, physicality, the ability to be coached, the ability to be loyal to each other. And I feel like our team is that way. We have 2 new coordinators, and I'm proud I was proud, I said it last year. We had one of 8 schools that had both coordinators back last year. We lost Barry Odom, a great friend of mine, got the head coaching job at UNLV, will do an outstanding job there. We lost Kendall Briles. Kendall Briles, we just came off a season of 6,000 plus yards, one of only 3 times that's ever happened in the University of Arkansas history to TCU. Very grateful, very thankful for those 2 guys and what they did for us. However, they left, and now we need to replace, which we have. I want to talk to you about Dan Enos, our offensive coordinator. We were together in 2015. One of those 3 6,000 plus seasons was when he was with us at Arkansas then. Travis Williams, we went to UCF to get him as our new defensive coordinator. I interviewed 4 or 5 guys when I got done with him. I called Hunter Yurachek and told him this is the guy. In the portal world and the coaching world, he's very aggressive, and I knew in the portal world if we lost somebody, we could dang sure replace them. And Travis was he's a great man, very positive guy, really good coach. We went to Florida State and got Marcus Woodson as our defensive backfield coach, co-defensive coordinator. Darren Wilson was an analyst at Florida coaching our corners, and Morgan Turner has had 8 to 9 guys play in the NFL when he was a tight end coach at Stanford, and we were able to get him from Stanford. One of the key cogs to us was getting Ben Souders from Louisville. Ben is our new strength coach. He's done an outstanding job with these kids, holds them accountable. You'll see the 3 that we brought. We got a whole bunch of guys that look like that, and that's credit to Ben Souders and his staff. We obviously have a challenging schedule. I think last year somebody told me we played 7 teams in the top 25. Well, that's the SEC, and we're excited about that. This year, our crossover games, we go to Florida. I don't believe we've ever won at Florida. We have Missouri at home, and then we have a non-conference schedule. We're excited to get BYU again. Kalani Sitake is an outstanding coach, and we're excited to get BYU playing here as we played them down there last year. 14 returning starters, 4 on offense, 7 on defense, and our 3 specialists. Brady Latham, Bo Lemmer are both catalysts to our offensive line. We're going to need them. We've moved Bo Lemmer to center to help us in that aspect. Eric Gregory, Nudie McLarkin, Hudson Clark, those guys have played a lot of ball for us on defense. And, of course, Eli Stein and Max Fletcher and Cam Little at the specialists. Roster additions, we had 21 high school scholarships addition, 12 of that 21 came in January. 9 of them came in this late May. 19 additions from the portal. We addressed every problem that we felt like we had, whether that be starting or whether that be depth-wise, except the only position that we did not replace in the portal was running back. we're expecting all those guys to contribute to us. I'm looking forward to year 2023, being the head coach of University of Arkansas. I'm looking forward to my 4th year being the head coach at Arkansas. Congratulations to the media. It's your day. Congratulations. I want to thank you all nationally for the kind things you've done for our program. This is what it's for you guys to sell and help us sell our story, and we appreciate you so much. I'm really indebted to the guys from Arkansas and all the things that you do for me and for the university and for the football program. With that, I'll take questions.
Thank you, Coach Pittman. If you have a question, raise your hand. Pam, Aaron, and Asher will have microphones. We'll start right in front of me, Coach, second row right here in the middle with Tom.
Hey, Tom Murphy, Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. You just mentioned the number of players you got out of the portal, a lot of them on defense.
Yeah.
And Brian Kelly was here saying when you get that many guys from the portal, you really don't know what you got. What gives you confidence that the guys you brought in are going to work and that defense will be better this season?
Well, I think, first of all, the guys that we have on our team, I think, are better. You know, they've improved. They've improved their strength and their speed and those things. Some of those times we've seen in spring ball. You know, I think 9 of them are not, you know, they're new. Those, I don't know, I'm not speaking for Coach, but I'm assuming that's what he's talking about a little bit more, the brand new ones that came in June and those things. You really don't know. You don't have a clue. But for that part of it, you're looking for some depth, and man, if somebody will come in and able to start from that group, boy, you've really hit the jackpot. So I agree with Coach on that. How we're going to be better on defense, I think we're going to be better on the D-line, and I think that's going to help us. We're going to be able to play a 4-man front. I think we'll be a little more aggressive. We've always been trying to get man-to-man cover corners, and I think between Snacks and Nudie and Day and Braxton and some of those guys, I think we're going to have an opportunity to play a little bit more man, which will allow us to be a little more aggressive and move that front. Moving the front helps you in the run game as much as it does in the pass game, and I think, well, we've got to do that a little bit more than what we have in the past.
Coach, we'll stay in this middle section to your right, just on the aisle. Trey.
Hey, Coach. Trey Biddy, Hog Sports, 24/7 Sports. Kind of a similar question about the portal. When you look back at when you were hired, the 2020 class, you had such a quick turnaround. You fast forward to today, there's only 2 players left from that class, guys that should be redshirt juniors and seniors. 2021, you weren't able to face-to-face recruit, had some misevaluations there. I'm curious, have you ever thought like how much trouble you might be in now if not for the transfer portal, and how thankful are you that it came along kind of when it did with transfer portal and NIL?
Absolutely. And to be honest with you though, Trey, I think part of the transfer portal is the guys you know what I mean. We have 2, but that's because some guys left and this, that. Now, I'll tell you what, I learned my lesson a couple years ago, because we were talking about who could we afford to lose, you know, if we lost some guys, and then we need some scholarships, all that kind of stuff. Not running them out of the program. We talked about and I learned my lesson. I went this spring and I said, hey, I don't want nobody to leave. I don't want anybody on the team to leave. If you think about it, your worst player might be friends with your best player, and you're running his best friend out. You've not only lost the worst player on the team, you lost the best player on the team. So we're not trying to lose anybody off the team, but to answer your question, I think the portal has benefited us, if that makes sense. I do think the window is way too long. I think we're trying to address that as coaches, as NCAA, as an SEC group. But I do think it has benefited us, and the only way things are going to benefit you is if you look at the situation and go, okay, this is the cards dealt. How can we have the best results out of these? And I think our coaching staff's done a nice job of replacing.
Coach, we'll go right down this middle aisle, right here on the near side.
Hi,
Hi, Coach. Clark Brooks on 3 in SEC StatCat.
Garth Brooks?
Clark Brooks, C-L-A-R-K. I get it all the time. Get it all the time.
Well, no, I just thought it was. I was getting ready to get your autograph.
Well, Coach Briles has helped lead your offense to lead the conference in explosive play rate each of the last 2 years. You have 40 more by volume than the next closest conference offense. I wouldn't necessarily categorize Dan Enos's offenses at Maryland as potent. Was that a sign that you're trying to trade a little bit more consistency for potency, or are you still confident you can still be the SEC's best at capturing big plays?
Was that a question?
Yes, sir.
Well, I hired Dan Enos because I think he's a hell of a football coach. So, and I get what you're talking about. But Dan wasn't dealt the same players that we have on our team either. So that's yet to be seen. I hired Dan Enos because I thought he was the best play caller I've ever worked with. And I felt like that's what we need. But you're right, explosive plays score points, and so would that be a concern? Not necessarily a concern, but we're certainly think about that all the time.
Coach will go right in front of me in the front row. Teresa.
To your left, Coach. Hi, Teresa Walker, the Associated Press. You mentioned the portal having benefited from it, but it being maybe a little bit too long. Are there any other ways that maybe the transfer portal can be, any other ideas to tighten it, fix it, make it more effective to everybody?
Well, I believe that kids already know if they want to transfer. I think they know. I mean, it's like a house coming soon for sale. Now on Twitter, it's I'm getting ready to go in the transfer portal because the rules say you can't talk to them all this, so they're letting the world know they're getting ready to. I think they already know. I think a week is plenty of time. It's going to be a lot better for roster management. It's going to allow us to, if a guy goes in the portal, allow us to go back to high school and recruit. Right now, it's very, very hard if you lose a guy in the portal not to go replace him with a portal guy. So I think closing that window down somewhat. If I'm a grad transfer and I've transferred once as a grad transfer, to me, that's plenty. To me, you can't go transfer again. Some of those things I think would help roster management. Part of NIL problem comes with the ability to transfer. And if we close that window down, maybe some of the financial things that you're hearing in NIL might become more true than maybe just words.
Coach, we'll go back over to this middle section on the right-hand side, about 4 rows back.
Coach Travis Galey with OrangeBloods.com. I'm curious if you've heard what you're hearing from fans and boosters about the addition of Texas coming back to the SEC and renewing this rivalry.
Well, I think obviously the state of Arkansas is ecstatic about have an opportunity to play Texas, and for that matter, Oklahoma. Proximity is so good. It's so good for us, and it's not going to be this costly on fans because they can drive back and forth to Norman and to Austin. But I think they're everybody's really excited about that. Obviously, we're bringing 2 powerful, storied programs into the SEC, so we know they're going to be really great opponents, but I think everybody's excited. I'm excited. I'm from Oklahoma. Grew up a Sooner fan until I moved out to Eastern Oklahoma, became a Hog fan. But I think it would be a great deal for the SEC and specifically Texas because of the old Southwest Conference rivalry.
Coach, we'll go back over here to our left side on the aisle. Trey.
Trey Schapp, Buzz Radio Network. Coach, how do you feel about your offensive line, specifically the tackle position, and then the depth now that you have in the quarterback room?
Well, at tackle, we have talented tackles. Devin Manuel and Patrick Kudus. We like those guys. We like Tykees Crawford. We like Andrew Chambly. And Marion Harris could go out there and play. They are not guys that's proven on a Saturday afternoon yet. Are they talented? Yes. And you know, I've been an O-line coach forever. I've got one of the best offensive line coaches out there in Cody Kennedy. But these guys are really good players. I know they can play. They just haven't yet because we've had the luxury of having older guys on the team and even sixth-year guys, super seniors, you know, that have kept them off the field. But I think it's about time they go out there and show what they're going to do, and I have no doubt. I feel really good about that.
Coach, we'll go back down the center aisle, about halfway back.
Hey, Sam, it's Anthony Dasher of UJSports.com. Kind of go back to Ben Saddler just a little bit. You guys were at Georgia together, obviously, for a few years. Was there anything during that time that you kind of caught your eye with him? And the second question, you added Jaheim Singletary to your program as well. What do you expect him to bring this season?
Jaheim's a little bit like what we talked about because we haven't had an opportunity to see him as much. You know, we didn't have spring ball with him. So we'll see. Obviously, we took him because we thought he could be an outstanding player for us. What we've seen is work ethic and all those things is heading certainly that direction. Ben Souders, I loved him. I liked him as a man. I like his work ethic. I like what he's about. He's a Christian man. I like everything about him. And when we had a turnover there, he was the first and only call that I made.
Go back to this middle section to your right, Coach, again, over on the aisle.
Hey, Sam, Andy Witchery with On 3. We know there's alignment between Arkansas and the State House. You've one of the more advantageous state laws nationally. The Knoxville News Sentinel reported that Tennessee actually had their AG step in and cite their NIL law to maybe prevent a bowl ban. What is that like when the State House is supporting the school and there's that alignment legislatively?
Strong. When I talk about the hog is strong, I must need to talk about the state is strong. It's strong. And, you know, we can't say much of anything. We go one side or another publicly for political or anything like that. We all, you know, we don't have a voice. We get in trouble. But I'm very happy with our university and how they tried to help us, and certainly Congress and the state, the state representatives in University of Arkansas, or in the state of Arkansas.
Okay, we'll stay in the middle aisle, about halfway back.
Hey, Sam, Colin Wilson with the Action Network. Travis Williams had one of the most aggressive defenses and finished top 10 in Havoc down in Central Florida. Often sometimes brings 6, 7, 8. Are we going to see a more aggressive Arkansas defense this year?
Well, I imagine we're going to see a more aggressive. Well, I don't want to be that aggressive, man. They would cover zero a lot. And I'm watching it. And so when I interviewed him, I said, hey, man, I want to go after people, but every now and then, can you leave a guy in the middle of the field back there, you know? Yeah, I mean, those type things have turnovers that come. Sometimes you think about, well, what if your corner gets beat and, you know, they go score and all that. But I like his thinking. I think his corner is, well, what happens when we hit the quarterback and the ball goes up in the air and we get it and go score a touchdown too. So I like that. I have a lot of confidence in him, and we will certainly be more aggressive. That's just his nature and his style.
Coach, we'll go over here to our left on the far side near the aisle.
Coach Eric Bailey with the Tulsa World. Can I ask you just your earliest Oklahoma football memory? And then these schools have only played 3 times since 1926. Do you sense a natural rivalry could develop? You know, the proximity is there. Do you think that'll happen now that they're joining the SEC?
Well, my first memory of Tulsa World is when in 1979 I made the Tulsa World All-State team. That's true. Well, nobody else to give it to. There's like 3 running backs in the state. But did you say Tulsa World?
Oklahoma football memory. You said you were an Oklahoma fan. I was one of your first Oklahoma football memories.
Oh, I got a bunch of them. Brian Bosworth, One of them, and I was a football fan, but one of them was when Arkansas, in '78, OU's got to win a natty, or win the game, they win the natty, and then, Arkansas got them 31-6. At that point, I wasn't an Arkansas fan. I was an OU fan, at the time. But, you have Billy Sims. There's a lot of great memories. We couldn't really afford to go to the game or anything like that, but a lot of great memories. Oklahoma, Barry Switzer, of course Stoops now, was the next one. And, a lot of great memories. Powerful program, great program.
Coach will go in the middle section in front of me, about halfway back, right here in the blue.
Hey, Coach. Brad Crawford, 24/7 Sports. 2 years ago, KJ Jefferson entered the season as one of the SEC's lower-tier quarterbacks. Now he's arguably the top returning player at his position. What are your expectations for him now in his final year at Arkansas, and how he's going to fit in this new Danny Enos offense?
I think he's going to fit great. I think he would have to answer that better than I can, but I think he's going to fit great in it. His extra study off the field has gone through the roof. I think he believes in Dan. I know Dan believes in him as well as I do. I think it's going to be his best season he's had. Whether we run him quite as much as we have in the past, I don't know that. Maybe we throw the ball a little bit more than with him carrying it. We have to keep him healthy. Obviously, we have Jacoby Criswell and Cade Fortin behind him, but he's one for a reason. And so I think he's going to be very active, but he's probably going to throw the ball a little bit more than what he has in the past.
Coach, we're going to go all the way in the back on the left-hand side, back corner.
Coach, Rob Brown, Sideline Sports, Memphis. You famously said coming off the field after a big Razorback win one time, how are you going to celebrate? I think I'm going to go home and have me a cold beer. Would that ever include a Hamm's beer? And number two, we're all proud of Christian Brothers High School alumni of Patrick Kudas. How important is the city of Memphis and West Tennessee to Razorback football fortunes? And thank you for being here.
Go Hogs. I like an old ham beer, but you burp a lot afterwards. You seem like you got a good job, man. Kind of step it up a little bit. West Memphis area, we go in there every year. The more we get, the better off those kids do, the more we'll be able to be welcomed back in there. But certainly you could see even at the Liberty Bowl, the following that we have from that area of the country. And it's not home per se, but it's home for a lot of Memphis, Tennessee people to be Razorbacks.
Okay, we'll go to this middle section right. Kirk, right here in front, Coach.
Kirk Bowles from the Austin American Statesman. Sam, with the sad passing of Mike Leach, should we assume you've taken over the title of the college football's most colorful and entertaining personality?
Man, I couldn't come close to him. We miss him, don't we? We do. A lot of fun. Honest as a day is long, and he's thought about a lot of his answers. Some he didn't. I'll say this. Somebody asked me, how did you know him well? I said, no. He said, well, you're going to the funeral. I said, I am, because he'd be at mine. That's just what kind of guy he was. Always calm all the time. A lot of respect for him. We go to the Liberty Bowl, and the people at the Liberty Bowl can't quit talking about all the things that Mike Leach had said about me, because they were Arkansas fans the year before. Incredible man, and let's be honest, we miss him. The game will miss him as well. But I want to say this: Mississippi State got it right. When that happened, they hired Coach Arnett. He's the right hire for him. He's a good coach, and we talk a lot about the other part of it, but I think Zach Arnett's going to do a heck of a job at Mississippi State.
Time for two more. We'll start over here on the right, Trey.
Got Trey Biddy, Hog Sports. A couple of years ago, 2021, you said that you were the defending national champions for the toughest schedule in the country. And looking ahead to 2022, it looked like you were going three-peat. you might have a little bit more argument. Excuse me, in 2023, you might have a little bit more argument on that. But that 4-game stretch where you start out SEC play, Baton Rouge, you play Texas A&M in Arlington, Oxford, Mississippi, and then Alabama to wrap it up. There's probably not another team that has a tougher stretch like that in the country. Just curious on your thoughts and how you manage that. And I know you take it one game at a time, but I mean that's a lot right there.
I think it's a gift that keeps on giving. You know, it seems like every year we've got a stretch in there, especially Trey on this year. In other words, 2 years ago when we were 9-4, we had a 5-game stretch. 3 of them were at home. Well, not really. One was in Little Rock, one was at Dallas. You know what I mean? Similar situation a little bit for us now. Now, don't get me wrong. I like the games in Little Rock. We're going to open the season there this year. But I think you just have to manage each game separately, but the heat has something to do with it. The length that you practice, whether they're going to wear pads or spiders, all these type things come into travel and weather. And so, yeah, it's a tough stretch. We've got to get after that stretch, but we've noticed it on the schedule as well.
All right, we'll take one final question. Second row, Tom.
Tom Murphy, Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Trey Biddy, you took my question right there. On the spur of the moment, Rocket Sanders in the running back room, why was Rocket able to go from being a high school kind of receiver to being a standout running back? And could you talk about him and the room, the depth you have?
I think because of who Rocket Sanders is. I mean, he's a hard-working guy that you'd want to bring home to every meal. Great guy. So I think that has something to do with it. His work ethic, who he is, just incredible guy. And, you know, he's fast and 240 pounds. That helps too. Now, the room, you look at A.J. Green, really good player. You look at Rashad DeBenya. You look at Dom Johnson. Dominique, you know, he started the Outback Bowl for us, but he just never had the confidence to play much last year. He's healthy. He'll be back. And so I think those 4 guys will take – I think we're going to have a good running back room again, but the leader of that room is Rocket, with A.J. being right there with him.
Coach Pittman, thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.
Here with Arkansas's Rocket Sanders, Rocket Raheem. Welcome to Media Days. You told me you had the suit picked out late last night, early morning. What are you most looking forward to about today?
Just the interviews, just get better at talking, just learning and just ready to talk.
When it comes to this upcoming season, you had quite the year last year. How do you plan on breaking some of those numbers that you posted last year this upcoming season?
Just by, like I always say, being patient and just letting everything develop on the field. And the key thing is about being patient and attacking every day so that day can come.
I've been saying I think you and KJ are maybe one of the most slept-on quarterback, running back duos maybe in the country. Would you agree with that, and why?
Oh, yeah, I definitely say that. I feel like our name is not on a lot of billboards, But like I always say, the time going to come, and we're not just worrying about each other. When it comes down to a duo, we're worrying about getting a win. And I'm always worrying about myself, but worrying about the team as well.
What's your relationship like with KJ, certainly over the past few months?
Man, just a lot of learning with the new offensive coordinator, you know what I mean? And, he made me comfortable. He made me feel comfortable, offensive coordinator and him as well. But I just feel more comfortable this year just talking to him, and just learning new things and always going to him for questions. He's always there for me.
What were some of your first conversations like with Coach Enos? You mentioned new OC. What's it like playing under him?
It was great. The first conversation is he was like, "Can you catch the ball?" Like he always like play around and be like, "You can't catch the ball" or whatnot. And he was like, "Are you just a running back, or you can catch the ball too?" And but before he came, I had looked into search about him, and he used everybody on the field, and I'm ready for that.
All right, so what does the pass catching ability look like this year? Are we proving him wrong?
Yeah, definitely. That's the goal, to prove him wrong. But I love when somebody come in and tell me something I can't do. So I got something to prove for him.
All right, last question for you, Rocket. I'm sure you've been to Coach Pittman's house. This is a very selfish question because I'm curious to get your take on the huge Razorback statue that he has. What is it in his backyard?
Yeah,
overlooking the...
What's so crazy, I've never been to his house, but like, I've never been to his house, but I always see that picture and I always like wonder, is that our school? Like the way he had that like set up is different. It feels like you're going into like school, like the one in front of our school. I'm like, wow. I'm like, I feel like it's always school when I see it. When I see it, you know, I can't believe it, but he living for real.
You got to get one of those in the backyard one day.
Oh yeah, definitely. Just being a Razorback fan and just playing with them as well.
Rocket, thank you for the time. Best of luck this upcoming season.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
I took issue with Garth Brooks, his question. I've been around Dan Enos a long time. I think he's really good, and I think he did a really good job last year with Talia. And those weapons, he found a lot of space for those guys. So how much of the hiring of Dan Enos had to do with what he did at Maryland versus what he did with you at Arkansas back in the mid-2010s?
Both, and a little bit at Alabama because, he had coached the quarterbacks there and things of that nature. But both, probably 75% of it was, I feel like at that position you need someone that understands the SEC. I thought Dan was as good a play caller as I've ever worked with, and Lord knows I've had a gazillion jobs. I knew he was loyal. I knew he was a good person, and I knew he was a developer of quarterbacks. And we've got him. And actually, Criswell coming up behind him, we've got him now.
Yeah, he was telling us about him.
And so we need a guy that's able to develop. And Dan Enos was loyal to me, and I worked for him back then, in 15. But we had over 6,000 yards on offense. We've done it 3 times. Dan was the coordinator one of the times we did that. So very loyal, very smart man. Excited to have him.
Coach, I absolutely love KJ Jefferson and his leadership, the way you talk about him. I know you guys have a personal relationship even. Going back a couple of years ago. Last year, however, you lose Traylon Brooks a couple of years ago. You got to find some wide receivers. You go get Jaden Hazelwood. You get Matt Landers. They go off to the NFL out of the transfer portal. This year, talk to us a little bit about your wide receiver room. Like, who are the guys? And I know one of them is like 6'7", so I want to hear about him. But who are the guys that you're bringing in, especially in the transfer portal, to be those wide receivers?
Yeah, a little bit in the transfer portal. If you live in it, you got to live in it again. And because you don't have no scholarships to let your young guys come through. But Sam Bakke, Isaiah Sategna, okay, those are young guys. Jaden Wilson, another young guy. And so we have those 3 guys developing that we've had. And then we went out and we got Isaac Tesla, we got Tyrone Broden, who's 6'7". We got Andrew Armstrong. Now, 2 of those 3 came from Division II football.
Yep.
Now, they can play.
Yeah.
They can run, they can jump, they can play. I played NAIA, never had an eligible athlete whenever I played. but that's why I played there. But we had guys, my point being, we had guys on that team that could play.
Yeah.
And these 2 guys coming in from deep. Bryce Stevens was the other one that I missed that's already on the team. So I think we have 7 right now that can play. I really like all our transfer kids. We did lose some good players. But sometimes the availability, the talent level is not quite as important as the feeling in the room, the togetherness of you don't always have to have the best players. You just have to have the best damn team. And there's a difference in that, in my opinion. Right now, we're pretty dang strong as a football team. Now, somebody's going to hit us in the face, and then we're going to have to figure out if we are strong enough, like the game last year from A&M. We had the game. We're in control of the game. That hits us in the face. We go into halftime, we're still ahead. It felt like we were 50 down.
Yeah.
And we've got to be able to have a coaching staff, me, and our team's got to adjust faster for us to have success, because we can't lose 4 games by 9 points. We just can't. We can't. You're talking about 7 to 11. But KJ is going to be a big difference in that, because he's got people to go to, but he's the leader of the team.
not the offense, not the defense. He's the leader of the football team. And coming from a quarterback position, that's a big deal.
You mentioned that A&M game, and I think that we all look back at that and kind of say, boy, that was the turning point.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that was KJ just trying
Yeah.
to get over the end zone, over the goal line. Ball gets taken away and taken the other direction.
Yeah.
You said it felt like you were down 50 at the half, even though you were ahead.
Yeah.
Are there lessons in that particular moment that translate for years to come for this program, for every individual in that room?
Yes. And, I remember I was at Oklahoma, my first year at Oklahoma in 97. I think we're getting beat by 3 or 6 by Northwestern. 3-0, 6-0. On the sideline, it felt like we were getting beat by 1,000 because we hadn't done anything. And we got beat 6-0 or whatever it was, a kickoff classic.
It was 30-0. I remember
97.
it well. Yeah, I was there, yeah.
Were you playing there? Or
No,
you were just
no. I'm a student.
I
was a student there.
It was bad.
He remembers everything about.
I was a
About
student
Oklahoma.
there. We had a lot of lean years then, but that's okay.
Yeah, I know. I was part of it. Thanks for I got fired. But I had to move my family. Was yours fired? Great.
Yeah, mine was good.
But
You bounced back, man.
Anyway, that's how the locker room was, and so I had passed of that, and so I'm going, hey man, we're still whipping them, we're still winning, we're still this, we're still that. Let's go, and we just couldn't get it back. And then I thought we got it back there at the end. We had a bad snap, and then we missed a field goal. But that's part of it. They beat us. That's the bottom line. They beat us. They deserved to win the game more than we did. They beat us. But those things are learning moments, absolutely.
Well, Coach, as you look at the transition from Barry Odom to T. Will, what things did you see coming out of spring ball that lead you to believe that this defense will be exactly what you need in 2023?
I like the D-line a lot. I think we've got some good defensive linemen. I mean, Deke Adams has done a wonderful job of recruiting.
Good.
I mean, changed the room. And you can't just say, hey, would you like to come? I mean, you got to go work at it and change the room, and he did it. So we're going to be able to play 4 down. We're going to be able to play 4 down in an odd front with a buck linebacker and things. We need that. I did not want to take those bigs off the field because I'm telling you, I think we're 6 deep. I think we're 3 deep on each side of DN. And I think we're at least 5 inside, 5 guys that can play. I do.
That's special.
And we did not have that. Well, you're recruiting for a 3-man front. You're not going to go out and get a whole bunch of guys. You know what I mean?
Exactly, yeah.
And so I like our linebackers. I love Pooh Paul. And then I think we've got corners that can cover. And
zero? Can they cover in zero?
Well, they better be with T. Will. They better be able to. I go in and I interview him. I said, God dang, how many cover zero? How many totals y'all interested in? Because I said, that's you totally killing them, or they totally scoring points. He said, oh, Coach, I'll simmer that down a little bit at SEC. I said, okay, man, I'm hiring you because you're a wonderful man, a great coach, guy that can take a Pinto in the portal and turn it into a Mercedes-Benz if you want to. They leave, you got to replace them. Let's get a Rolls-Royce, and that's what he can do. That's what he brings to our program. Love the guy.
Good to have you up here, man.
Well, it's good to see you. I didn't know if I was going to be one of the guys. It was just me and Coach Saban.
Yeah. No.
Has he been up here yet?
He's been up here.
Oh, he's way before me.
Yeah, he was first.
I got it.
He was first, but you were second.
That's a strong second.
This is like one of the things you first. Second could be last.
No. You got 2 more coming later.
Yeah.
No, you're good. No, you're in great shape.
I finished second a couple times.
No, you're not the first loser. You're the second winner.
Mostly in a track race.
When it comes to this Hogs offense, KJ Jefferson has some new targets to throw to this season, 4 transfers and a pair of freshman tight ends. Speaking of KJ Jefferson, Peter Burns just caught up with him in the lobby.
Trying to hide the bling that's happening right here with KJ Jefferson. My man, show the wristwatch and show the rings. What are we working with here?
So I got my Outback Bowl ring that we won, and then I got my Liberty Bowl ring. And then for the watch, I just got a cardio watch, iced out cardio watch.
I mean, like for real. That's the real thing. This is not like just coming like a little knockoff or anything, right?
It's just real deal right here, real deal.
College football been good to you to come back? I mean, how is like the name, image, and likeness part aspect kind of changed your life?
It changed my life from a financial standpoint. standpoint, just being able to help my mom out and also help me from a platform and build my brand, just being able to give back to Mississippi and the community in Mississippi, and also just spreading the knowledge and stuff to kids around the surrounding areas.
Talk about your mom. I know that she is a diehard Razorback fan. I heard a story about Missouri State. Mom was creeping up on the bench or what?
Yeah, she was. I wasn't having a good game, and then she just came down behind the bench and was like, "Hey, you need to get it together. You need to focus up and play to your full potential that I know you can play at." So she's my biggest critic, and she knows when something wrong and something is not right.
She's harder than you than Coach Pittman.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Who are you more afraid of?
My mom, for sure. My mom. Coach Pittman kind of take it easy on, but my mom, she going to give you the straight, hard truth.
What was this off season like? You spent some time in San Diego with George and trying to work on your game. What was the one thing you learned that's going to elevate your game?
Footwork, just me being able to just take control of my lower half and knowing that my lower half initiates the throw and just becoming a passer, not a thrower.
Was that something that you knew was a deficiency, or somebody had pointed out and said, this is what you need to work on?
I kind of knew it. Like, at heart, I always wanted to be a thrower. But then just being able to just use my legs when things break down and just become that mobile guy. But also just Coach Whitfield just being able to come in and like, hey, I watched some of your tape. I broke it down. These are things that I know that you can get better at. And when you come out here, these are things we're going to work on to help perfect your craft and develop you.
Last thing, Dan Enos coming back in. What is he bringing to this offense that excites you about this season?
Just the freedom at the quarterback position and the development and how detail-oriented he is. And also just being able to just have the freedom at the quarterback position. When I say that, I mean just being able to come up, change protection, re-ID Mike, audible out of play, get us in a better play. Whatever the defense throws at us, we have answers for it.
Well, if it works out that way, Mom will be happy and you'll have another ring on your finger, all right?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
While Kentucky is replacing its quarterback, thankfully in Fayetteville, Arkansas is not. KJ Jefferson returns more than 3,300 yards of total offense, 27 total touchdowns last year. Got a pretty good teammate in the backfield in Rocket Sanders. The tandem spoke today. KJ telling us why he came back this year.
Not me being able to play in some of those games that from last year because due to injury, and then also just the quarterback draft last year was kind of quarterback heavy. So just being able to come back another year to be able to give my chance a better shot at fulfilling my dreams and changing my life and my family life forever. So just being able to just come back and give it one more shot.
Yeah, I feel like our name is not on a lot of billboards, but like I always say, the time gonna come, and we're not just worrying about each other. When it comes down to a duo, we're worrying about getting a win, and I'm always worrying about myself, but worrying about the team as well.
KJ Jefferson, great last year, ranking in the top 5 in the SEC in total QBR, yards per attempt, touchdown to INT ratio. Rocket Sanders, just as dynamic out of the backfield, ranking in the top 5 in rush yards, touchdowns, and yards per rush. So you've got Rocket and a rocket arm, Greg McElroy. Is this the best backfield in the SEC?
They are. I think depending on what type of offense you might decide to run, you're either going to take Jaden Daniels or you're going to take KJ Jefferson. So whether you take one or the other kind of depends on whether you want speed or do you want power. I kind of like power, but either way, I think when you make the case on behalf of him, I think he's got to grow a little bit in the passing game. Yes, they were great as far as yards per attempt. They made a lot of chunk yardage plays down the field. But if he can be a little more consistent on the underneath, I think he can grow by leaps and bounds. Because there were times last year that the running game wasn't going great. Could he throw them out of a jam? He did so often, but not often enough to the point in which they can really threaten some of the top teams in the league. I'm very optimistic about his growth, and I love the hire of Dan Enos as far as quarterback development and the new offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I'm with you, Greg. I think this is the best quarterback-running back duo in the entire conference. The problem is that in addition to being a great running back and carrying the football, Rocket Sanders also is the leading receiver on this team. You lose a ton of production at the wide receiver position. You lose Trey Knox, who moves over to South Carolina. KJ Jefferson, he's not going to throw to himself. So who are those guys that step up? I think that's going to be one of the determining factors as to how far this Arkansas offense can progress this year.
Well, the last time Dan Enos was there, he had a 3,000-yard passer and a 1,300-yard rusher, one of 2 teams to do that. He did it with a different quarterback and different running back in each of those 2 seasons. So we'll see if more of the same coming up here with Arkansas.
He's coming in at number 3 on Chris Storing's top 5 quarterbacks this season.
KJ Jefferson. Some people might say he's a little low right there. This dude is invaluable to that Arkansas offense and to the team as a whole. You saw what they did last year when he wasn't under center. This year, goal number 1 is to make sure he plays in all 12 ball games. One of the reasons I think I may have him a little lower than some other people do, I'm worried about the pass catchers. They lose their top 4 pass catchers from last season. How do they replace that, and how quickly can the relationship be made between KJ and those pass catchers?
A couple years ago, it was Trey Flowers, and you had last year it was Landers and Hazelwood. Those guys are out, but we'll see what Dan Enos, who has had some success up in Fayetteville, has done before. We'll also hear from KJ Jefferson. He had a great talk with Marty and McGee. That coming up a little bit later. Number 2, I'm going to hit it right here.
You want to talk about underappreciated?
Okay.
The most experienced,
different offense,
tenured quarterback. Yeah, I think it's actually going to behoove him a little bit this year. A little more.
Right, coming in at number 1.
Big surprise here.
Your favorite team?
Jaden Daniels, your favorite team. This is all of a sudden I've become an LSU guy with all of the
kind of looks like it when you
losses.
look on Instagram and
no
Twitter.
Doubt.
Yeah. So there's a lot of quarterback competitions around the SEC, but not in Fayetteville, right? KJ Jefferson is the man. Sam Pittman was talking about he's not the leader of this offense, not the leader of this defense. He's the leader of the entire team, including the coaching staff. He had a chance to go sit with Marty and McGee in Nashville. We find out why number 1 is headed back for one more season.
You could have made a different decision at the end of last year. With the portal, you probably could have gone myriad places. You could have tested another level. But why was it important for you to make sure you stayed put and tried to finish the deal?
Because, like, the injuries. I mean, I didn't play in some games that I really wanted to play in. And also just it was a quarterback-heavy draft last year, so I just wanted to come back and maybe give myself a better chance at becoming a high draft pick this year and just being able to make sure I put my team in the best position to win.
There are not a whole lot of guys in college football that have started at the same school for 3 years. There are just not very many of them. So how will you define success?
Me defining success is how I was raised up was if you start something, you got to finish it. So I started with Arkansas, and my main thing is I wanted to finish with Arkansas as well. So me defining success would be just if you're going to start something, make sure you finish it and give it your all.
We love Sam Pittman. Describe his presence for you guys and what you learned from him. Because his leadership style, I mean, you talk about player coach, he seems to be the poster person for player coach.
That was his main thing coming in since day one. He wanted to establish relationships with all the players and make sure he had a player-led team and we just not out there like robots. I mean, so that's the main thing. It's truly a blessing and amazing to have a guy like that that really is passionate about players and establishing relationships. So I do whatever for Coach Pittman. I mean, I just love the guy.
But most coaches played, right? I mean, all of them. But I think he would love to play like right now. Like he strikes me as that guy. Like I think he would strap it on right now.
He think he can. That's the thing. He thinks he can. Like we'd be at practice, he'd be like, I'm finna go suit up right now and come out here and play quarterback, show you how it's done. So I'd be like, okay, coach, you got it. But I feel like he does think he can play right now. But that's the kind of coach that you want to have that's willing to do whatever he can to make sure he sees his guys succeed.
When you play at the University of Arkansas, you guys are the most famous people in the state. What responsibility do you feel because you're representing all those amazing people in your state?
It's pressure, for sure. It's pressure because, like you said, they love the Hogs. They through thick and thin, they're gonna die by the Hogs. So just being able to just have that fan base and that atmosphere to just know that those people love you that much and they treat you like they're one of their own. So just being able to play in front of a fan base like that that's very diehard and loyal, you just want to go out there and just make sure that you're performing at a high level.
What is your release? I mean, when you're the face of an SEC college football program, that is pressure. How do you get away from it? What do you do to try to have a release from?
I try to talk to my family as much as possible. My mom is one of the person that I talk to day in and day out. We're on the phone almost every day, just talking about life, talking about football. I mean, she's my biggest critic as well. So just being able to just talk about football, life, and she just give me that release to just take a moment, just take a deep breath and just, hey, go here, or just go take a walk in the park and just clear your mind. So just things like that she give me advice on.
In his career, KJ Jefferson has accounted for 67 touchdowns, 48 passing, 19 rushing, fourth most in Arkansas history, and just 10 shy of tying Matt Jones's program record. Remember, last season, he had 33 scores, 24 through the air, 9 on the ground, 3 shy of tying Wyatt Mallett's Razorback single-season record. Just a cool dude. Like, what did you learn about him either in Nashville or even that conversation with Marty McGee?
I just think in general, man, he's a really good leader, and what he does to elevate the play of those around him is kind of immeasurable. Go back to last year. When he was on the field, they won 7 ball games. When he wasn't, they lost both of them. And so not only is it about winning ball games, but the offensive production way down when he wasn't in the lineup. Only 13.5 points. They averaged in those 2 games. So they need him desperately out there. They're going to find out who the pass catchers are. Maybe the best combination of quarterback, running back in the entire country, pairing him with Rocket Sanders.
Yeah, I mean, he'll probably go down in the as far as the Razorback record books as one of the best that they have ever had. But he's also, I think, a good example of how name, image, and likeness can work, because KJ Jefferson might have elected to go and put his name in the NFL draft. Yeah. He's coming back to Fayetteville, and I'm excited about it.
Actually, reminds me a little of Oscar Tshiebwe, decided to return to Lexington. This was a guy who probably wouldn't have been drafted as high had he decided to come out. Could have made some money, but coming back, getting another year in college, which is invaluable, the development that goes along with that, and you get a little change with the NIL stuff. So good point by you.
Spencer Rattler. Well, did you just hear that? Did we?
I ruined the whole show.
Hey, we're rolling on that, right? The good point by me.
All right, how about in Fayetteville? They don't report until Thursday. We know this, though. They're not going to have the quarterback questions that Ole Miss has. Their guy, KJ Jefferson, voted second team All-SEC quarterback this preseason. Sam Pittman, head coach, he's not taking KJ for granted.
He is having fun. I think he's really confident. Really doing a nice job at leading. Really nice. You know, it's easy to lead when it's positive. Hard to lead when what's coming out of your mouth is negative. That goes for all of us, me included. But if you want to fix, you better lead in either category. And he certainly has done a good job with both of those. And I didn't mean that any other way than you don't have to be reminded, because the entire team looks at him as the leader, you know, and he does a really nice job. I think it'll be a big year for him, because I think he still thinks he's got a lot to prove, and he does.
One voice, one message. Arkansas football aiming for improved secondary. They didn't have it last year. They need it this year if they are going to make a run with a lot of talent on the offensive and defensive side of the ball.
Welcome back to SEC. Look like you're running for office there, Roman Harper.
I am.
Tight end, though, you went the Double H.
Oh, man, Hunter Henry. I covered this guy. I remember him as a rookie, and I said, dude, you are something special. He has continued to shine. He shined at Arkansas when nobody was paying attention, and he continues to do it today on Sundays.
I would have liked to have an Ingram as well, too, but that's a different story. Running back, this was a no-brainer, right?
Not McFadden, exactly.
He was the number 1 pick.
Darren McFadden is my change of pace back. Oh. I'm taking Darren McFadden. Also, he's going to help us spread it out, because we can also go back to the Wildcat. Yeah, they hadn't seen that in 20 years. Wildcat, baby. He outran Pat Peterson.
Oh,
please. I got to take
Manziel could have gotten some looks. Eli Manning could have gotten some looks. Dak Prescott could have got some looks.
Could have, all of them, but I'm taking Cam. Give me Cam.
Take a look at these numbers, right? As far as Judkins, not only led the SEC in rushing, but also led the league in making defenders whiff. 67 missed tackles forced. Judkins, Rocket Sanders among the top 3 returning Power 5 players in a missed tackles forced a season ago. And, of course, Jaden Daniels, QB for LSU, on that list. So you're never afraid to tackle anybody. However, I had to put together this list. We had to draw this list out of Taquillo Spikes. About 5 dudes that you wouldn't want to have to tackle. Coming in at number 4.
Number 4, I tackle all of these dudes, but this is one guy I'm going to buckle up the other chin strap for. KJ Jefferson. Why? Because you get so caught up in thinking, you know what, he's going to pass the ball, he's going to go downfield, but he is the RPO king. He can decide to pull the ball, be able to run not only linebackers and secondary guys over, but I've seen it last year, he ran over several defensive linemen. Why? Because he stands at 6'3", 250 pounds. That's a threat in the backfield. Actually, it's another running back.
I was going to say, and all of a sudden he did this. It looked like Cam Newton back in the day. Also, a little Tim Tebow having a lot of success. All right, you got a tight end, you got a quarterback, and you got a wide receiver. We finally going to get a running back here or what?
Absolutely. And let's go back to the state of Arkansas. Let's go with Raheem Rocket Sanders. Another guy, running back, 240 pounds. And I looked it up. He is clocked at a 4.4. And it's not by accident.
That's a machine. Come on.
Listen, the best thing, look at the arm tackles that he's break. For me, when I look at Rocket Sanders, he reminds me so much of Edgerrin James from the finishing standpoint. Edgerrin James never fell back. He never had a tackle for loss, and that's Rocket Sanders because of his momentum. He understands with this body type, he's always going to fall forward.
One of my favorite things, he's got an NIL deal with Huggies. He said he's a new dad, so when you get diapers, he actually donates to a diaper fund as well, too. So shout out for Rocket for getting that done. All right, coming in at number 1 on the dudes you just don't want to have to tackle.
Quinshon Judkins.
Got it.
We are hearing a lot of great things about Sam Pittman's Arkansas Razorbacks as he begins the season here in a couple of weeks, and we are happy to say hello to Chris Paul Jr., the Arkansas linebacker, redshirt sophomore. He was a freshman, made the freshman All-SEC team, and is certainly one of the stalwarts in the league. First of all, Chris, thanks for making time for us. Good afternoon, and how's everything going?
Good afternoon. I want to appreciate you, my man, for having me on the show. And everything's been good. Just been a grind and just getting ready for this upcoming season.
And Chris, my deepest apologies for having to subject you to some of our callers a minute ago. Just so you won't be confused, those two guys were both Alabama fans. They were not Arkansas fans. So you don't have to be concerned that they will be critiquing Coach Pittman's group this fall.
It's all good, my man. It's all good. It's just, fans showing their love for the game.
Now, I am going to ask you something, and it's not so much to clarify, because I think anybody that knows you knows your history and knows your dad is a Navy vet, long time service to this country. But how many times a day, how many times a year do you get asked if you're Chris Paul's son, the NBA star?
Every day, believe it or not. And the question that follows up behind that is, are you a hooper like Chris Paul Jr.? Like Chris Paul? And I'm like, no, I'm the football version of him. So if he was to be a football player, then that would be me.
I guess it's inescapable. I mean, he's extremely well known, and there's nothing wrong with being asked. It's a legitimate question. What about the rest of your family? Do they get tired of it? I guess they're probably more used to it than you.
I often say they way more used to it than me. It'd be times that I go back home to visit back home, and my mom get that question a lot at work because she's a registered nurse at the local hospital there. So it's a lot of patients who keep up with me and other players who come from my community and things like that. And they just ask, does he play basketball as well? I did play basketball, actually, and don't let nobody tell you different. I was a great small forward. So I played basketball, too.
I want to, while we're talking about your family, I saw that you have 6 older sisters. I had 1 older sister. That was tough enough. I can't imagine 6. Can you describe? I remember who was it we talked to? Was it Will Anderson last year? You probably heard that story. He had to deal with this. What's it like with 6 older sisters?
Man, so I'll say the number 1 rule to having that many sisters: do not take over 25 minutes in the restroom. Me and my younger brother, we learned that the hard way. So what we would do was we would take turns, going to get ready for things like that, like church, for instance. So we'll get ready for church. And one time, my brother thought it was a great idea to take 45 minutes to get ready. And the water got cold and everything. So basically, me and him were in a dog fight versus 6 sisters. So it was 3 on him and 3 on me. And that did not end well at all. So that'll be the golden rule. Don't take over 25 minutes in the restroom, please.
So of all the tough offensive linemen and running backs you've had to deal with, your sisters are far more difficult, right?
Oh, no doubt. No doubt at all. Like, though my sisters prepared me for moments like this. So I want to thank them for that.
Well, let's finally get to the season, which I know you guys are really excited. I mean, who isn't excited right now? We're 3 weeks away, and the optimism reigns high in your state. You guys have enough players that it feels like Arkansas is about to zigzag back to where they were a couple of seasons ago. What's it feel like at camp, and what's the vibe?
Man, the culture here is outstanding, and the guys are ready to get on the field and showcase to the fans how hard we've been working, because we've been putting in tremendous efforts on and off the field, in the film room, but especially on the field. We just pride ourselves on giving the fans something to look forward to this season. You know, these fans, they come hard for us, so it's only right that we do the same in return and give them a winning season.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I don't want to be dismissive of any program, but Arkansas is unique. It's the school. You go to another school, and you know, Texas or Alabama or anywhere, or Florida, and there are multiple major universities, but Arkansas, everyone's for Arkansas. Even the other schools, fans gravitate. How would you describe the love you guys get from the fans in that state?
The way I would describe it is it's like, man, we are the pro team here, and I experienced that firsthand. Like everybody's for the Razorback, as you said, so everybody knows who's on the depth chart. They know from when transfers come in, new freshmen, guys like that, and things like that. And these fans, they take pride in that, because we are the only sports association here that's like big time. So, you know, everybody's for the Razorbacks, and everybody has a major love for the Hogs. And so what I love about this is, you know, and I'm gonna be honest with you, my first time coming to Arkansas was on my moving day. I have never been to the state of Arkansas before, but it's just, as soon as I got here, it's just, I could feel like the love. Like, I guess it was a lot of fans outside that knew that ball players were moving into this apartment complex when I came in with the guys I came in with. And, you know, they was just outside with signs, and some of the signs even had players' names on it. I remember specifically one sign, it was like a kid had drew a rocket ship, and it had Rocket's name on there. It had Rocket's name and number on there. And it was just amazing to me that these fans show so much support and so much love in this town, especially here, but all over the state, though. Like, it's been times that I went to Little Rock, Arkansas, and got just as much love as I did in Fayetteville. And that's just something that I'm really, like, you know, I was really blown away by, and I really was amazed by.
And yeah, it's interesting, because we're talking about, you know, deep on the depth charts, but one thing Arkansas has right now, and it's giving fans reason to be optimistic, is, you know, in addition to what you've accomplished and are expected to accomplish, but you got some, you know, starting with the quarterback and running back. I mean, you got some major players on this team. What are you guys talking about in relation to the season? I know the coach speak, you can't look too far ahead, but I'm sure there's a lot of optimism.
The things that we've been talking about is just taking it one day at a time, starting with count. We just pride ourselves on getting into the playbook, understanding the schemes and why we do certain things. And as far as the season goes, we just want to take it game by game. Nobody is bigger than anybody. Every team is full of great athletes, you know, especially in the SEC. But college football is full of great guys who just love the game. And so we just pride ourselves on taking it day by day, game by game, and just executing the game plans.
And I talked to Coach Pittman not that long ago, and he knows what didn't go right last year. So many close games, but that's the SEC, Chris, and you know you have to win those games. So as you're preparing, are there little things that you guys think about, because, you know, we're talking literally one play in a game that can give you a shot at something great at the end of the season.
Yeah, man. And if you look back in last season, like those games that we lost to a combined total of 9 points. So that's just a play away, or a call away, or a check away from winning those games. But what we pride ourselves on is the little things. Take care of the little things, and they take care of the bigger things, if that makes sense. So it's just like, you know, just small things: alignment, assignment, and execution. We pride ourselves on those three things, and that's what we're going to pride ourselves on this season in order to give the fans what they deserve.
There used to be a time, and I'm talking way back, where players had time in the summer to do things. What is the summer like for you? Is there much of a break, or is it pretty seriously buttoned down, getting ready for the season?
No, it's a pretty big deal, pretty serious deal. And the things that we do in the offseason, you got your workouts and things like that. But we, as a team, got together, and it was times that we sat down and we watched film together from last season, just picking up on things that we could fix in order to have a better season this year, whether it's minor mistakes, mental errors, checks that could have been made here, and things of that nature. So, this summer we just prided ourselves on sitting back, reflecting on last year, taking those problems that we had from last year, and just coming up with compromises and things of that nature that will help better us for this year.
Yeah, I had Roman Harper in here earlier, and when he saw that you were going to be on the show, he was bragging that you guys were in the same fraternity. I don't know if I'd want to be in the same fraternity as Roman Harper, but there are a couple other pretty well-known people. Shaquille, not Shaquille, but there are a lot of who else is there? Steve Harvey. There's some pretty big people, bigger than Roman Harper, by the way.
Right. And that fraternity is Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated.
So that read where Michael was in there too? Michael Jordan?
Michael Jordan, yes, sir.
I mean, he's probably some old guy to you, but he was a big player in my world. Probably in your.
He the best one to me, if I'm being honest. He was the best to me, if I had to give an opinion.
Chris Paul's probably not going to. The other Chris Paul is not going to like hearing that. Before you go, I'm particularly interested as we talk to young players, because fans don't know what to make out of certain things, especially what's happened over the last 2 years with NIL. What does it mean to you and your teammates, and how are you dealing with it and really benefiting from it?
To us, NIL is just all about getting back into the community. Like I said prior, it's just getting back out to the community and giving the things that they deserve. That's just showing face, just showing up to various events. Like, it's times that me and my teammates, I know like KJ Jefferson, Rocket, Andrew Armstrong, the guy that just came, we all went to this school and we just read books to kids and things like that. It's just all about giving back to me. It's just really all about just going out here and just showing appreciation to the fans, basically. They do a lot for us this season. Whether we win, lose, or draw, they always pack that stadium out. And it's only right that we go out and show that, they are appreciated, they are loved just as much as they love us. So to me, NIL is just all about, just giving back to the community, whether that's, one of my teammates, Snacks Johnson, has this thing called Snacks Pack. And that's just us going out and, packing up bags with canned goods, whether it's school supplies as well. And we just pass them out to those in need and things like that. And just give appreciation, whether it's just leaving a card saying, "Go Hogs," "You are loved," things like that. Because some people need, those type of encouraging words to keep going, especially if they're in, like, those type of circumstances and things of that nature. So, just going out here and just showing face really brightens, especially those kids, brightens their smile and give them something to look forward in the future. So, and what I benefit from NIL is just seeing the fans, making them happy, if I'm being honest. I ain't never been a guy just to sit back and want something in return. I always wanted to, put forth my best foot every time I do something, and I just wanted to, show the fans that I love them as much as they're behind me, I'm behind them as well.
Well, Chris, thank you for joining us. It's such a pleasure for us to hear from young people like you, and I'm really glad the audience gets to meet young people that really are inspiring a lot of youngsters, as you mentioned. I hope you'll come back. Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah, I appreciate you, Mr. Paul.
Great to talk to you. Chris Paul Jr.
Because it's unwarranted expectations. And expectations are put on these players, and it's not by their own doing. None of these players asked to be on this list. None of these players asked to be told where they would be ranked as far as the NCAA is concerned. But somebody in their circle is going to tell them where they are or where they are not on this list.
Yeah.
And because of that, now I have expectations where I have to play up to this list, or expectations where now I'm using this fuel to burn my fire more to get up this list. And you're chasing things that aren't always true. And at the end of the day, and so I end up being more disappointed because the person that has expectations is the one who always ends up just a little bit more disappointed than those that do not have expectations going into a season where I just want to have fun. I just want to win ball games with my teammates and enjoy the college space. And all of that is ruined when I'm sitting up here talking about the lack of respect.
And I'm the kind of guy that absolutely loves the list. So that's the difference between you and me. Take a look at this. I can't get enough of lists like this.
It's the worst. I hate it.
You see, Jaden Daniels is on there. Raheem Sanders, Rocket Sanders, Quinshawn, I think might have been a little bit low on there. You see Will Rogers and his new offense. Dallas Turner, now that he is the man. And, Will Anderson on that flip side as you continue to go. You see some fantastic names, right?
Yes,
Anaya Smith is going to be on that list. You had also talked about Joe Milton III being out there as well. Mason Smith, the great defensive tackle who got injured in that first game.
Makai Wingo should have been on there.
Might have been on that list as well, too. Just goes to show you there is a ton of talent around here playing football in the SEC. In a statement Monday night, the Baltimore Ravens announced the passing of running back Alex Collins at the age of 28. Before the NFL, Collins spent his freshman season at Tulane before transferring to the University of Arkansas, where he would finish his college ball under then-coach Brett Bielema. Later Monday night, Coach Bielema, taking to social media to remember Collins, had this tweet. From a high school visit with his coach, Doug Gatewood, to our journey at Arkansas, to the Seahawks on draft night and the move to Baltimore, he touched so many lives. I'm glad I got to know that smile and loving soul. Thank you for always loving my family and always being you. I love you, AC. Arkansas football had this tweet as well, as saying, we are saddened by the sudden and tragic passing of Alex Collins. He was a legendary Razorback and an even better person. His love for the Razorbacks and desire to be a Hog was undeniable. We will miss him greatly. Our thoughts are with his family and loved ones during this difficult time. Now remember, Collins finished second in school history in career rushing yards, trailing only Darren McFadden. Although he's more than a football player and more than a single play, Razorback fans and college football fans alike will always remember the name Alex Collins and it being synonymous with the play forever known as 4th and 25.
Allen gets the snap. Got all kinds of time. He's going to fire to the sideline, complete to Henry, but Hunter well shy of the first down. He's going to lateral it back. Ball's on the ground, picked up by Collins. Alex has got room at the 30, 25, 20. Collins at the 15, cuts back at the 10, and the Hogs have a first down. We're still playing football.
Woo damn pig.
Oh, no.
Woo pig, baby.
What's up, big dog?
How are you?
I'm amazing. Great to see you.
Good to
Look
see
sharp,
you,
man.
Welcome to talking season.
Yeah. Good to see you guys.
Talking season.
How you doing? You like to talk?
Yeah. I like to talk a lot. My wife says too much.
Nearly 40 years in college football.
Yeah.
And college football's never looked like it does right now. So how has old Hog had to evolve personally?
Well, I haven't done very good on analytics. That's the one thing. I'm starting to try to do that now. We bought the book, and I'm reading through it and trying to figure all that. I got a guy that tells me what I'm supposed to do, and you know me, I'm going to cuss him out and say, I ain't doing that. What are you talking about? I ain't doing that. As you get older, you have to adjust or be stubborn and be going to the lake not 20 or 15 days a year, but 365. I don't want to do that. Love who you are and how you practice. Yes, sir. Bug don't start till you make contact. All this other stuff is like at the prom, dancing on the dance floor. I'm telling you what, we got a good football team and good people. And we got a tough football team. Let's be tough all the time.
All right, so you're a few years into this now. Career assistant coach, legendary assistant coach, a few years into being the head coach. What have you learned? What do you want to work on this year? I mean, are you surprised at how much you've had to change? I mean, what do you think at this point?
My biggest concern has always been about people. So you got NIL, portal, you got all these things, but this is not a business. This is a people business. There's a difference. And so my biggest concern has always been the locker room, always. Well, portal, NIL, or locker room dividers. That's just what they are. And so I just become more open about it. I have changed in the fact that, I don't want you to go in the portal, and I don't. But at some point, if they do, they do. And then I've changed the fact that I've hired coaches that, okay, if you want to go in the portal, we'll go replace you with someone. And that doesn't mean we're running people out. I told the guys in spring, hey, I don't want anybody to leave our program. Tell everybody that and it's true, everybody has importance, treat them as importance. If they want to leave, then that's their choice. Go replace them. And if, like I drove a Pinto with no muffler, standard, and I want to replace that Pinto, well, I didn't want to go replace it with a tricycle. I wanted to replace it with Mercedes-Benz. And so the opportunity is there. And if you work hard enough, which is recruiting, or you work hard enough in life and make enough money to buy that Mercedes, you can, but it's called work. And you have to have coaches that are willing to go work and recruit and keep your guys, and if they leave, recruit somebody else. I think I got a staff that's doing that. I'm involved in that as well, and I have to be.
That sounds like a chip on the shoulder.
I love it. I mean, he said 3 things that made me want to just strap up and knock the hell out of something. You ever have a Pinto?
Absolutely. Yellow.
Yellow
no muffler.
Pinto.
No muffler.
No muffler.
No muffler.
Made it sound tough.
Stick. Well, couldn't afford a muffler.
3-speed.
Couldn't afford a muffler. I guess I could have afforded that ticket they were going to give me, but they never did.
Clark Lee sat here yesterday, and he said, I'm still a football player. And that's how I feel about a lot of you guys. To me, you're still a football player.
Yeah.
Obviously, players have evolved, but in the end, even with all this other stuff, are they still dudes? They're still football players?
That's it.
Yeah.
It's still the same thing, man. It's still people in the stands. It's still TV. It's still scoring touchdowns. It's still football. And once you get on the grass, NIL don't matter no more. None of this other, I'm on transfer. No, you ain't. You can go out there and knock the hell out of somebody. and then if you want to after that.
Yeah.
But kids still have the desire to play the damn game and like it's supposed to. And it changes a little bit when you get off the field. On the field, none.
You mentioned the lake a minute ago.
Yeah.
If you had a blank canvas and could paint your perfect day, what does Sam Pittman's perfect day look like?
Well, I wish my wife learned how to use that new fancy coffee machine I have. Because there's an hour and 15 minutes that I got to take her down to Starbucks. So that'd be the perfect part of that. I can sleep in a little bit later. Okay? Got this fancy machine, don't know how to work it. So that would be part of it. Then I'd come back, man, if I could go buy Popeyes and get me one of them $25 buckets, and they got a sandwich, 2 sandwiches in there, and then come out and I'd have a soul cold beer. Got to. And then I'd get in on the boat. So I get on the boat, I'd be touring around for a minute, and there's about 8 or 9 places you can get off your boat and eat. I'd probably go over to Sam's Pizza and throw down a piece of pizza or 2. And then I'd come back, and it'd be about 6 o'clock, I'd jump in the pool. And then hey, you want to hear the fight song? You come sit in my pool. They grab, the fight song as they come by the hogs. I do that till about time to, I'm a little older than I used to be, maybe about 9:30. It'll be, let's call it a day, boys.
That check.
But that'd be perfect. And then the next day, I'd like to do it all over again.
No, he's the winner.
Cold beer at every stop.
No, you're the winner.
Every stop.
Me too.
Popeyes and a piece of pizza. I'm in, son.
What we doing, Coach? Turn that
Last thing, we're in Music City, USA. If you got to go to the karaoke machine, you got to crank it up.
Ooh.
What is Sam Pittman's go-to karaoke song?
Well, I don't got much country, but I'd throw a little Foreigner on there and work a little Jukebox Hero.
Oh,
of course.
Come on.
It's a great jam.
That's so good.
Matter of fact, I was at a concert, Foreigner and Loverboy. So I'm supposed to go on stage at Jukebox Hero, okay? They bring me out on Hot Blooded. So I'm out there, I go right to the mic, and I'm rolling. Hot Blooded, check it and see. And the thing's dead. The mic's dead. And I'm looking around going, what, are you afraid I'm going to take your job? I mean, I was rolling. And if I'd have come off the lake with Popeyes, rolling some Sam's
and
pizza.
9 cold beers?
And then 9
singing Hot Blooded with Foreigner?
Or more. And then singing Hot Blooded. I forgot to add the Hot Blooded.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
Then it would have been unbelievable.
Yeah.
You guys want to know who played well, and there's a winner and a loser. And if that was the case and we called it, I'd say probably the defense got the better of the offense if you're looking at 1s, 2s, and 3s. You know, I mean, if you're doing that. But the format is set up that the offense gets the ball 75 yards away from scoring a touchdown, and they've got 10, maybe 11 plays possibility to do it. So really what we're looking for is making calls, who's physical, who's coming around, who can tackle,
who can run the ball, who can catch, things of that nature. And it was about 140 plays, I think, maybe more because we did get the ball back in 2 minutes. Cam, another highlight, Cam Little kicked a 59-yard field goal today, and I believe he was 100% on his. I think we might have missed one with the twos, and Cam was 100. Boy, he's kicking the ball really well. Punted the ball really well, both of them, 37 and Fletch. So a lot of good things. If I was disappointed in anything, it would be the number of times that we got called holding on the edge and on offense. I think our defense cleaned up their penalties until the very end on the last 2-minute drill. And we got a couple of holdings on that. But other than that, I thought the defense flew around, played well. We got some of the guys back. Book was back this week. Pooh was not in there yet. And 51 came back on offense. So Devin. So I think in camp, I think you have to talk to your kids, and to a man, they really liked the early morning practices, and we're going to keep that. I mean, they liked it. They practiced hard. We're going to be ready for the heat in 2 weeks because we got 2 weeks of afternoon practice. Before you asked me about the air conditioner, it's supposed to be ready to go on Monday. And, yeah. But I thought camp went great. I think we got a good culture. And we got hot today. You know, there was a little bit of tempers flaring out there back and forth, and we got hot. But when you're hot, you got to control those things. It was a great learning experience for us today, and we got a good, tough football team, and I like where we're at after 2 weeks. I really do, a lot.
On Saturday morning, Arkansas AD Hunter Yurachek announced the passing of Keith Stokes, who many know as the longtime caretaker of the live Tusk mascots. Keith Stokes represented everything that is right about our state, Yurachek wrote in part. Keith's loving dedication and selfless service to our live mascot program paved the way for countless fans throughout Arkansas and beyond to connect with their state and their beloved Razorbacks. Many of us across the SEC got to know Keith, myself included. He was the best of humanity. He and his family were one of the first friendships I formed when I came to this conference because Keith never met a stranger. He had a way of making you feel like he'd known you forever. We will all miss seeing him on the sidelines holding a bag of green grapes for Tusk. But to Julie, Abby, Chip, and the Stokes family, please know that his light and love will live on in the SEC forever. Rest in peace, Keith Stokes.